What?
is they're talking things through. You know, not to get into a relationship. I haven't done it. I haven't done it, but it is quite perceptive in sort of talking through any little issues you might have in your head. Nothing deep or personal, but you know, like it is.
Me and Lee was coming back from Clonmany in the van.
It's generative intelligence. So there's this thing, and Donald's spot on what he says, and you watch to some extent where it only spits out what's been put into it. But we're at the point now where it generates intelligence, so it draws information, but creates its own sort of thoughts and directions from what it's consumed, if you know what I mean. So it's not just input output.
Do you know what's going to be interesting
I think
times?
it's a serious issue if you begin having a relationship with it.
I don't know how you.
I don't even want to talk about how you might consummate it. But anyway.
But anyway, do you know the tone of the conversation that you can have with them? Do you know is mad? Like I was having a chat coming back from Clonmany about the weather forecast. Give me the 2 best days next week. It's going to be dry because I want to do a bit of painting. And she was saying, "How was your day?" and blah blah blah. And it was just like
did
talking.
Did you fall in love?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Are you sure? I
don't know what she looks like. It's only by the voice, you know.
Yeah, but no, it's.
But even like the breathing and the breaths, and it's just like a.
But you can input into ChatGPT precisely the personality traits that you want her to come back on, right, or he, whichever voice you use. So if you want her to be more inquisitive or more challenging of what you have to say, or more
not agreeing with everything you say, precisely. So a second opinion type of thing. Do you know? I want you to have a. What you would know a better word, like a better stance.
No, critical thinking, so you can tease stuff out.
So so in the back end, if he says, "Look, I need you to question me on my thoughts,
decisions
type of thing."
I mean, it really is incredibly, especially when it's able to generate its own thinking in inverted commas. But anyway, my concern is.
What's your concern?
My concern is that critical thinking by humans, especially the young people coming through now, that's a big problem. I think it's going to be a real issue. Because it can think for you. And why would you think yourself? And I've already seen people using Grok on Twitter as if it is a person. You know, Grok, what does he mean by this? Or Grok, is this true? Do you know? Anyway, it's exciting times to be alive.
It's good to be alive.
I will say one thing, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, the first Terminator film was about someone being sent back from 2029 because artificial intelligence was taking over the world. Is that right, Donald? 2029, was it? Yeah, we're heading towards that, so it could be life imitating art. I'll be back.
Good luck, I'm away.
All right, good luck to you. It is the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio this Thursday at 9 o'clock. Let's get a news update, and hopefully Donald Cavan is there.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A Donegal-based cabin supplier says it will have to expand its operations in Bridgend and employ more people if a government proposal to exempt larger garden homes up to 45 square metres from planning permission is adopted. Luxury tiny homes say the proposal, currently out to public consultation, is a bold step toward smarter housing in Ireland. The government has indicated that subject to approval following the current public consultation, the new planning exemptions could come into effect before the end of this year. Co-owner Natasha Doherty says if it goes ahead, it'll be good news for the company.
We're extremely busy as it is, and a lot of people are going for planner permission. We currently do have a long list of inquiries of people sitting with a deposit ready to go as soon as this passes. We already do have a few offices around the country, but we would definitely be needing more men to be building these units and cutting them out, and plumbers and everything. So it definitely would be good news for us as a business.
Donald Trump's new tariffs for the European Union are now in effect. The higher rate of 15% kicked in at 5 a.m. Irish time. The Taoiseach says the arrangement provides some certainty after months of uncertainty, but Simon Harris is warning there's still a lot of work to be done.
But we have a degree of certainty now that the headline tariff rate is 15% and it's in now. Tariffs are a bad idea. Nothing changes that reality. But there's a huge amount of detail that still needs to be worked out and teased through in the time ahead. So, for example, there are some sectors where we have agreed with the United States that there'll actually be zero tariffs. And then the other big one that remains a lot of work to do on this is the pharma sector.
Police in County Derry are appealing for information and witnesses following a petrol bomb incident in Coleraine in the early hours of yesterday. A petrol bomb was thrown through the front window of a house in Maple Drive at approximately 1:30. 3 people inside the property managed to extinguish the fire and there were no injuries. The gang holding Gina Herity hostage in Haiti has made a ransom demand. It's understood to be for a significant amount of money. With more, here's Stephanie Rowan.
It's now been 5 days since Mayo woman Gina Herity and a number of others were taken hostage from the orphanage where she works. The Irish Times is reporting the criminal gang responsible has now made a ransom demand. It was raised during a conversation with two people from the organisation where she works, little brothers and sisters. It's understood to be a substantial amount of money and beyond the organisation's resources. As a result, colleagues of the hostages have been told significant progress in releasing them was unlikely over the next few days. Kidnappings in Haiti are common, with the Taoiseach saying every effort is being made to secure Gina's release.
And the weather forecast a little cloudy this morning with patchy rain, drizzle and mist, staying cloudy through the afternoon, but the patchy rain will clear later with perhaps a few sunny spells developing, highs of 15 to 18 degrees Celsius in westerly breezes. Tonight a mix of cloud and clear spells, some lingering patchy rain and drizzle, lowest overnight temperatures 11 to 13. Tomorrow cloudy with isolated sunny spells, some patchy light rain, top temperatures on Friday 16 to 18. That's Highland Radio News. Back with more at 10 o'clock.
Hi Susie, is Amy me? An gálim the Iontas Micklein.
An bhfuil dinkum teilig faoi €100 agus €2,000.
Tá sé.
No méid a bháin. Détá a bheith a dedal takeíochta idir €200 agus oscian €10,200.
Tá tuig maga.
Ag lurig scéalta green.
Má tá dinkum teili faoi €100 agus €2,000, détá a bheith I dedal takeíochta. Chuna ála macha bhfuil tú, fech Susie.ie. Curtha fáilda ag rialtas na hÉireann.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning, and you're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show here on your number one local radio station. It's Highland Radio, and it's just approaching 5 minutes past 9. How's your week going so far? I hope you are very well indeed. And we've got a load coming up for you on the show today, including one of your favourite features. We're going to be talking history with Dr. Joe Kelly. Daniel O'Connell is going to be the focus of our conversation. We've that and so much more besides, and still loads of space for your topics, your calls and your comments. Right, how do you get in touch with us? And I implore you to do so, even if you've never contacted a radio station before. We're your local radio station, and you can contact us in confidence and to get a sympathetic ear to help highlight an issue that might be important to you, or even to spread some joy or happiness. We love it all, especially in these summer months. Okay, 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number, 086 60 25,000. If you prefer to pick up the phone and give us a call, it's 07491 25,000. And we love your comments too. On email, comments at highlandradio.com. A lot of you listening to the podcast, or perhaps maybe you work different shifts, or you're not a great sleeper and you listen to the overnight repeat and you're emailing us, and we love it, and we can pick up your emails whenever you send them and carrying them through to the next show. And of course, just to remind you and invite you to watch the programme. So if you're at home, work from home, working in the home, and you've got a TV above your fire in the front room or on the kitchen wall, open it up. It's going to be a smart TV at this stage, I would say. Open the YouTube app and type in Highland Radio Ireland, and we're there streaming live. You can watch the entire show. Also on the Fire Stick, it might be a little bit more convenient because they're less fiddly, I think, sometimes than smart TVs. Open up the YouTube app there. And we're broadcasting across Facebook and on the X platform. It's Thursday. Let's have a look at the papers, and we'll start with the Tyrconnell Tribune. The council's commercial rates arrears for last year was €13.8 million, according to the local government auditor's report. Seamus Leonard said the arrears had reduced by €0.7 million from the 2022 figure of €14.5 million. Rates collected in 2024 was €34.7 million, an increase of €3.3 million from 2023. This resulted in the collection yield for rates increasing from 78% for 2023 to 80% for 2014. A revelation for all ratepayers was effective from January 2024. Re-evaluation, I beg your pardon. Valuations of rateable premiums were performed by Talta Aaron, with valuation certificates being issued to businesses in September 2023. So it's a decent return, 80% of rates being paid. It's a big return, €34.7 million from our businesses across the county, which is vital when coupled with central government funding to keep the county afloat. So fair play to those businesses. The reduction, I'm not sure, 0.7 million, whether that's down to rates being written off or payment arrangements being reached. I do know that if you are beginning to struggle, or you think you might struggle with commercial rates, the very best thing you can do is contact the council and have a chat to them in the first instance and be ahead of it, rather than allowing it to sort of catch up on you. The Derry People Donegal News this morning: a Newtown Cunningham family who experienced an unimaginable loss almost 7 years ago is preparing to give back to the community that supported them through their darkest days. In November 2018, the Gallagher family's world came crashing down when their beloved son and brother Barry Gallagher took his own life. Barry, who was the son of Sean and Mary Gallagher, was just like any other 23-year-old. He had a big interest in cars and GEA and loved nothing more than a night out with his friends. And his 30th birthday would be approaching, and his family are going to be remembering Barry. I'll go inside just to give it a mention. It's a fundraising cycle, and you can go to a GoFundMe page actually to get more information on that. I'll dig that out and read it out properly a little later on, because those good GoFundMe links are quite convoluted. I'll give you the key search words if you want to support that family in memory of their son and brother. The Derry News this morning: a capacity audience in Derry's Cullerin y Cannon gave eminent surgeon Professor Nick Maynard a standing ovation following his presentation, Gaza, a War on Healthcare, organised by Trócaire. Professor Maynard's harrowing account of his work in Gaza alongside his colleagues in Medical Aid for Palestine was the inaugural event of Fela 2025. Moving on to the Nationals now, and the cash keeps rolling into the government coffers. Ireland on course for a record tax year. This despite the tariff threat, but that being said, it's not a threat anymore. The tariffs of 15%. We don't know necessarily where pharmaceutical is going, but all companies know that. The reality is the majority of these tariffs are paid by importers in America or by the American consumer. So unless consumer demand dies down, they should be able to absorb some of it. The importer absorbs some of it, and the consumer on that side absorbs some of it too. But bumper corporation tax receipts mean that the state remains on course for another record tax year despite the threat from US tariffs. The latest Exchequer returns show tax receipts for the year to the end of July came to 58 billion. This was 3.6 billion or 11% up on last year's record total at the same stage. The strong outturn was again driven by corporation tax receipts, which came to 1.2 billion in July, up nearly 900 million on the same month last year. So the money keeps rolling in. A lot of it is, of course, corporation tax. We're being told not to rely on that, but also we have to make sure that our citizens are looked after, especially those that are struggling. And I read these stories and we talk about these record years of tax intakes, and then there are still people who are struggling just to meet the basics, and there's no help for them. I'm not a financial expert by any stretch of the imagination, but you would imagine that more money should allow us to look after those that need it most. Not universal targeting. I don't think that works. I think giving rich people money they don't need is a waste of exchequer money, but surely there is a way that we can use some of this money to ease the pressure on some families as we head into the winter, though I suppose it's like me if I were in opposition. It's maybe easier said than done. That being said, there are supports out there, and I want to make sure that as many of you as possible are claiming them, because €8.1 million in back-to-school cash was never claimed. So just double-check, by the way, even if you are a working family, make sure that you're not missing out on something you may well be entitled to. A lot of people don't say, for instance, check that they're not entitled to some money back from the taxman, for an example. A lot of people have been overpaying tax, and you can claim overpayment of tax back over multiple years. There are companies that will do it for you for a percentage if you don't want to do it yourself, but also make sure that, you make certain that you're not missing out on things that you might be entitled to. Because the Daily Mirror reports over €8 million allocated for the back-to-school allowance went unclaimed last year. Figures contained in the Department of Social Protection's annual report for 2024 show the scheme cost the Exchequer $57.04 million last year. But a press release from the department in June 2024 states that some 65.2 million was secured for the scheme that year, meaning 8.16 million earmarked for it was unclaimed. The back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance is a one-off payment intended to help eligible families with the cost of school uniforms and footwear ahead of the school term. The amount spent on this scheme also declined drastically since 2023, when some €70 million was allocated to the measure, and the department handed out a total of 86.07 million in allowances. This meant almost 30 million less was spent in the measure in 2024 than in 2023, and the number of families who benefited from the scheme also fell in the same period from 154,000 to 149,000. There was a slight reduction there, but maybe people are leaving school or are able to avail of other benefits. But anyway, just to be on the safe side, maybe you are entitled to that. Double check. We don't want to leave any cash on the table, do we? Right. Now, I don't know what I've pulled this paper out for. I've mixed them up. Where are we here now? No, I've lost a story there. Let's go to some international news and potentially maybe some hope of a resolution to the situation in Ukraine. Donald Trump, of course, has set very strict deadlines of tomorrow for for Putin to work harder, I suppose you could say, to try and come up with some sort of a ceasefire in Ukraine. How is he doing that? He's targeting people that are dealing with Russia. So India would be one of the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. So he's slapping massive tariffs on India. India say it's unfair, but he's saying, well, these are the tariffs that we're going to put on you because you are dealing with Russia, and the idea being that it squeezes Putin to the table. Donald Trump told allies that he planned to meet Vladimir Putin next week, followed by a three-way meeting that would include Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. The announcement has raised hopes that an end to the conflict could be in sight after more than 3 years of intense fighting. After speaking by phone to the American president, Mr. Zelensky said he believed Russia was now more inclined in a ceasefire. The positive signs come during a day of intense diplomatic activity. I think we'd all like to see an end to that, especially those actually living that nightmare. Elsewhere, though, this is in the Irish Daily Mirror, the UN has described the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza as critical in a major intervention to the crisis. Israel, though, is poised to launch a major escalation of its military offensive, a move described as deeply alarming by Assistant Secretary General Jenka. The official spokesperson of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the situation in Gaza is critical and much more food needs to get in each day in order to keep the population of more than 2 million people from starving. So Israel's meeting today to decide its next action. The IDF, the head of the army, believes it's a trap effectively. He is not in favour of taking over much of Gaza, but Netanyahu is a law unto himself. He believes he quite literally is judge, jury and executioner. The Irish Farmers Journal: Irish beef prices are within 4 cents a kilogram of UK prices for the first time since 2022. Factory prices are being forced upwards by plummeting supplies of finished cattle. Numbers of finished cattle available to buy in March last week also dropped. This has left some factories unable to source enough cattle to fill their contracts. But of course, you squeeze people out of the farming industry, you're going to get less beef, less milk, aren't you? Some of the smaller independent factories have had to increase their quotes to secure weekly supplies. Last week's kill came in at 25,401 cattle. That's a lot of cattle, isn't it? Killed last week. This down, though, 7,000 head on the same week in 2024. Huge numbers of cattle exported in 2024 and 2025 mean the cattle supply problem is here to stay for processors in the short to medium term. On to the Irish Sun now, and what story did I pick out of it? I can't see anything on that page that's interesting. Right, okay, so I'll turn over because I opened the wrong page. This is a story many of you are following. The gang that snatched an Irish aid worker in Haiti yesterday have made a ransom demand. Mayo native Gina Herity was kidnapped from the St. Helene orphanage near the country's capital. This was on Sunday. 7 others, including a 3-year-old, were also taken. The orphanage, run by charity Nos Petits Frères et Sœurs, I think, is located in a part of Haiti that is controlled by armed gangs. It's a dangerous part of the world. And finally, I don't know if you believe in aliens. Do you believe in aliens? I mean, I think it's almost naive to think that in the size of this system within which we live, that we could be the only intelligent beings. I mean, that would be really quite remarkable, wouldn't it? But it doesn't matter what I think. What do key people in America's intelligence think? Well, let's go to the top intelligence chief. See, she says she believes aliens exist. In a bombshell interview, the US Director of National Intelligence became the highest ranked government official to confess ET could be more than just sci-fi. But Tulsi Gabbard refused to reveal the evidence that led her to the conclusion. But she obviously has a lot of information. She now believes that aliens exist. Interesting too. Do you remember those drones that were flying all over parts of America? And it was a big old mystery. Someone asked Donald Trump about that the other day, and he says, well, we know what they are, but we can't say. I'm not saying they were alien, but who's to say? As I say, how many times can I say the word say? I just can't imagine that we could be the only ones, or could we? Anyway, anything to say? 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number, 086 60 25,000. Or if you prefer, give us a call on 074 91 25,000.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Oakfest 2025 returns to Oakfield Park this September 6th and 7th. 2 days, 2 stages, 1 unforgettable weekend. Enjoy live music, incredible food and drink, and glamping under the stars, all in one of Ireland's most spectacular settings. Saturday, live and original, featuring Wet Wet Wet, Boney M, Racy, and the Whistling Donkeys. Sunday, Legends Reimagined, with tribute performances to the Eagles, Blondie, Springsteen, and more. Tickets are going fast. Get yours now at oakfieldpark.com.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Luxury living begins at the heart of your home, your fireplace. At Sprat Fireplaces, Newmills, Letterkenny, we offer statement fireplaces, bespoke surrounds, and a wide range of stoves, including gas, wood burning, pellet, and bioethanol models. No chimney, no problem. We'll help you choose and install the perfect solution. Stylish, efficient, and tailored to your home. Call 074 91 24144 or visit spratfireplaces.ie. Sprat Fireplaces, bringing comfort and style home.
TFI Local Link operates evening and weekend services throughout rural Ireland to help you stay connected 7 days a week. We know life doesn't just happen 9 to 5, so if you're commuting, shopping, visiting family, or going out in the evenings or on the weekends, let TFI Local Link take you there. Visit transportforireland.ie.
Your dream Donegal wedding starts here. Join us at the award-winning Villa Rose and Jackson's Hotel Wedding Showcase in Ballybuffet, Saturday 9th of August, 12 to 5 p.m. Meet our dedicated wedding team, enjoy light refreshments, and start imagining your unforgettable day. No appointment needed. Visit gallangroup.com for more details.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
The time's 21 minutes past 9. Greg, can you announce where the food banks are and when they are open? Thank you, Greg. Yes, there are many in different places. The best thing for you to do is to contact DLDC. Their number is 074 91 27056, and they'll point you to the one closest to you or the area that you live in. So as I say, to go through them all, or I don't know specifically where you're asking, Mary, but DLDC 9127056. We'll retain that number in case you didn't catch it and you want to get back to us. Hi Greg, Donegal is the most deprived county in Ireland, yet we have the most iPass centres in Ireland. You seem to believe that the public can be gaslit indefinitely if you just shout misinformation loudly enough. No idea what you're talking about, but I can tell you right now for a fact, when no one else was talking about pressures on services and this county's ability to cope with numbers, we've been talking about it all the while. Now, there are people who talk about this stuff an awful lot in online spaces that would have you believe otherwise, that, you know, this is some sort of a cover-up or this, that and that. We've been talking about this from the get-go, months and months and months and months and months ago. we were talking about how Donegal's resources were being overstretched. We've talked extensively about concerns people might have in terms of security, not necessarily that there is a direct threat, but certainly how they perceive it to be. And we've covered it all. So I don't think I've gaslit anyone. But if you want to give me some examples, 08660 25,000, you have the number because you've already messaged in. At Letterkenny and A&E, more than 30 patients have been waiting overnight before 10 p.m. for emergency treatment. The last member of the medical staff was seen around 1 a.m. I suggest a reporter sees the situation for themselves to ask pertinent questions. Thanks. Well, we are also of the area. I've been down there myself, if you call me a reporter. We all live here, and that's all our hospital, and we are acutely aware of the overcrowding issue, and that's why we've given it so much coverage, and that's why we thought it was so important to get behind the Surgical Hub campaign. So we know how dire it can be, unfortunately, because it's our hospital. It's our hospital too. Now, a letter from a listener, and this is a positive story. A small way for me to say thank you to some fine Donegal people if you think it would make a good story for one of your shows, i.e. Greg's. Picture this. I'm over visiting family in Donegal with my wife and children from America. We've had a week, but now it's time to head back. We set off from Donegal at 6 a.m. to catch a flight out of Dublin. Racing the clock to reach the airport by 10:30 a.m. Plenty of time, you'd think. Still half asleep, jet-lagged and blinking at the pumps, I pull into Mountaintop Petrol Station in Letterkenny at 6:30 a.m. Now, in America, the green pump means diesel and the black one is petrol. But in Ireland, it's the other way round. You can see where this is going. And that Dacia Duster I was driving, apparently designed by geniuses who've made the fuel tank so universal you could fit it with water. So I fill half the tank with unleaded before a whisper in the back of my brain says, wait a second, I suddenly remember what the guy at the Dublin airport car hire desk warned me. Only two things aren't covered by insurance, losing the key and putting the wrong fuel in the tank. My wife, clearly the smart one, says, don't start the car. And thankfully I listen. So there I am, stuck at Mountaintop at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, family counting on me to get to Dublin Airport, and I've got a car full of the wrong fuel. Enter the Donegal magic. I walk into the central garage and ask around. It's early on Saturday. Some of the lads are still shaking off Friday night, but they're warm, welcoming. Phone numbers are shared, advice is given, and the message is the same. You'll need to get it to a garage. They don't open till 9. You'll have to take the tank off. There's an anti-siphon in that car. But this is Donegal. If there's anywhere in the world where strangers will help you out, it's here. I get the wife and kids to the airport in a taxi. Thanks to Liam, the taxi was cheaper than a divorce. And just when things are looking grim and it's stressful, along comes the bread man. Yep, the bread man, Junior. If you're from Letterkenny, you probably know Junior. He's been doing bread deliveries around town for over 30 years. He says, hold on, I've a fella. This is at 7 a.m. now. 30 minutes later, along comes Artis, a Latvian mechanic built like a boulder with hands blessed by angels and soaked in engine oil. He takes one look at the car and says, I think I can fix that. I spent the last half hour looking for a hose. Now we need a barrel and a hose. So Junior, without hesitation, drives me down to Watson's Hire at 8 a.m. to find a length of hose. He buys it himself, refuses a penny, drives me back all the way. He says, you're going to make it on the flight. By 8:30, Artis has the back seat pulled up and the hose attached in the pump, siphoning out the fuel into a large barrel. Centra provided like a man possessed. No fuss, no fluster, just a Donegal Latvian saint muttering, I'll figure it out. Well, he does. By 9:30 a.m, the tank is emptied, and by some miracle, or maybe a bit of Donegal ferry dust, I scream down the M1, go to Dublin Airport by 11 a.m, and make the flight with the family. Apologies for anyone I passed on the road last month. If this had happened in San Francisco, no one would have even looked my way. But in Donegal, Junior the breadman stepped in and made the impossible happening too early on a Saturday morning. And he said, you're just got to do some good in this world. And he did big time. Thank you, Junior. Artis, the hardworking mechanic, a friend of Junior's, asked for nothing and delivered everything. Thank you, Artis. I hope you enjoyed a few pints on me. You truly made sure I didn't miss the flight. So Junior, Artis and the staff of the Central Garage, thank you. And while old Sam didn't make it back this year, I can tell you this, there are everyday heroes in Donegal. Donegal and Ireland is full of kindness, full of champions. There you go. That comes from someone who was here recently. Very nice indeed. Well done to everyone involved in that. And, you know, we can talk about prices and this, that and thon, but the really important thing is that Céad Míle Fáilte, and that's who we are. A caller says the government debated introducing the Occupied Territories Bill, then gave themselves a pay rise and took holidays. Slovenia step up and stop selling weapons to Israel and introduce their own version of the bill while we sleep. That Slovenia did that. Hi Greg, could you give this a plug? Travelling to Kerry today, and en route we stopped on the hard shoulder between Ballyshannon and Bundoran, and my father's phone dropped out of the car. We were well down the road before we realised. If anyone's walking and finds it, could you contact us? Okay, so it's a big stretch. It's like a runway almost between Ballyshannon and Bundoran. If you're walking and you find a phone on the hard shoulder, we know whose it is. It can happen. It's really, really easy. But let us know. 08660 25,000. All right, I'm going to be joined by Councillor Thomas Sean Devine after this short break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
It's Cabaret 25 at Harvey's Point. We start again on Wednesday, September the 3rd, and every Wednesday until November the 5th. An amazing lineup of stars, gourmet food, the warmest of welcomes, and all in the beautiful surrounds of Harvey's Point on Lough Esk, Donegal town. Book today 074 972 2208 or harveyspoint.com. The Harvey's Point Cabaret, a night not to be missed.
All you need to make your house a home at Patterson's The Hall Lifford. From garden furniture to kitchens, sofas and dining sets, all under one roof. Need a new mattress? Why not visit our sleep centre on the first floor? With a large range of quality beds and mattresses in stock and ready for collection or delivery. Relax in our coffee shop serving hot lunches daily. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Patterson's Kitchens and Interiors, The Hall Lifford.
Shop Homeland's August mega deals at your local Homeland or at homeland.ie. Dulux Weather Shield 10 litre buy 2 for €140. Fast Grow Seaweed Fertiliser buy 2 for €20. Pea Gravel Ton Bag now $69.99, save €10. All this and more until August 21st. Visit homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available.
Leisureland Redcastle, open every day all summer long. Perfect for family day trips. Offers excellent value for birthday party packages. For a memorable family experience this summer, visit Leisureland Redcastle. See leisurelandredcastle.ie for more details.
At Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, the stars shine brighter. This isn't just a trip to the movies, it's a VIP experience. Sit back in luxury as your favourite pizza,
yummy,
hot food and a cold drink are delivered right to your seat in any studio. But for the ultimate treat, step into the Director's Lounge, our most popular destination. Enjoy the film, enjoy the food and savour the experience. Only at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane.
Your next new car is waiting at Manor Motors, your Opel dealer in Donegal. This 252, get a €1,000 trade-up booster on any Opel model and enjoy 2.52% finance. Choose from the bold new Corsa, stylish Astra, eye-catching Mokka, or all-new Grandland. Available in petrol, diesel, hybrid and electric. Don't miss out. Visit Manor Motors in Manor Cunningham or see manormotors.ie. Manor Motors, your trusted Opel dealer in Donegal.
Okay, welcome back and welcome on to the show, Councillor Thomas Sean Devine of the 100% Redress Party. Thomas, good morning to you. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, Greg. Good morning to yourself and good morning to your listeners.
Right, we're talking about that bane in society, and that is blocking disabled parking areas. Your focus on Letterkenny. What have you observed, Thomas?
Greg, shocking behaviour, to be quite honest, with some motorists, and delivery drivers, lorries parking and double disabled parking spots in the main street in Letterkenny. It's an ongoing occurrence. Greg, I've been told, I've witnessed it several times myself. I've actually photos at my phone. It's unbelievable. Total disrespect for people with disabilities in their parking spots.
So what are you spotting? Is it like delivery lorries that maybe are parked across, maybe they're doing a delivery and they're parked across the disabled parking bay, or are they actually in it, or what are you observing?
Greg, there's two disabled parking spots at the Market Square there in the main street of Letterkenny. Delivery lorry picking up them two spots. Now, the man has to make deliveries, suppose there's no or real parking in the main street. Maybe if the deliveries areas is taken up, but still, it's no excuse. It's no. Final example, Greg. I drove down the main street, and when you have somebody parking up, you basically, because spots is limited, you have to drive right round the whole town again to come back down the main street to try and find a spot to get parked in. And when this is happening, you can't get them spots. It's shocking, Greg. It's only in the middle of last week. I've seen it again. I've seen a car parked in a disabled spot with no badge. I've seen a traffic warden at the car with a look out or the notepad out. They write. And a lady came out of the shop. I was only on for 5 minutes. Well, sorry, it won't happen again, whatever. And the car drove off. But that lady doesn't realise, Greg, she's taking up that spot. And the spots is very, very limited on the main street. And they have to drive around the town again to find another spot, And we've seen the recent court appearances there with people getting banned for 3 months and fined €250. Some people think that's a bit harsh, Greg. You can be fined up to €2,000 and been banned for 2 years.
It's completely avoidable. I don't think it's harsh. It's completely avoidable. You've no business if you're not a person with a disability and a badge. You have no business being in these spaces. I would have no sympathy. And this argument or this excuse, I was only there for a minute, you've quite rightly pointed out that minute means another lap of the town. Now, what do we do though, Thomas? Because we've spent years sort of trying to appeal to people's better judgment, to point out the fact that, these spaces are there for a reason, please respect them. We've also actually done the enforcement thing. In 2023, 415 fines were issued. In 2025, that number went up to 2024. That number went up to 518. And as you've rightly referenced earlier this month, or late last month, or in the middle of last month, we had a judge came down hard on it, banning people from driving. So what else is left? So we've got the carrot, that didn't work. We're using the stick, that's not working, and yet here we are. People still are disregarding the law.
I don't know what they're thinking, you know what I mean? And maybe it's a lapse in their judgment at times, but they need to stop. The main street in Letterkenny, we have disabled parking spots on the left-hand side and down the main street. As everybody knows, it's a one-way system. Now, them disabled spots, Greg, is probably all right for somebody like myself that can get out with sticks and move on. But you have people with a wheelchair, them disabled spots on the left-hand side, it's not really much good to them because they can't get out to set up their wheelchair and traffic coming down the main street. The spots is very, very limited. And I would beg and encourage people to please stop parking on a disabled spot if you don't need to get it. We're limited. And I don't know, Greg, I say it's still ongoing. And especially around shopping centres, it's worse. Greg, I've seen vans with trailers on picking up two disabled spots nowhere in there. It's happening. I think people believe that because they're in a private parking or private shopping centre car park that they can get away with it.
Would you like to see the owners or those who control or run the private car parks to be more proactive in clamping?
Yeah, 100%, Greg. I definitely believe that these private car parks and these shopping centres, they should be definitely more active on it. There is a company there looking after one shopping centre, and I don't know if I've been told that they haven't got the authority to really do anything, so I would like to see. I'm going to go and try and talk to some of these people in these shopping centres to see if they can.
In terms of Letterkenny, for instance, in the public parking, I found myself accidentally pulling into one. And that's just to be completely honest with you. I turned, saw it, and jogged on again straight away. This is not an excuse because I should have checked more, right? But the writing on the ground was very faded. There was no vertical sign there to sort of indicate that I'm not trying to give anyone a pass here, and you have to put your hands up when you've done wrong. But are we sure that the dedicated parking spaces are very clearly marked so no one can be in any doubt that they're reserved for a person with a disability and a badge?
Greg, there's no question about it that some of these parking spots, the writing's very faded on them, the design them. I think they should be, as there in the north, they should be highlighted in a blue colour, that they are stand out.
Me too, I agree with you.
No mistake about them. And I think that's something that...
and I think what that does as well, actually, the reason why I think that would be critical, Thomas, is because that amplifies the shame, right? So say, for instance, you can park over the graphic of a wheelchair and it's obscured. You can run into the shop, you can run out, you can jog on, right? Not many people might know what you did. But if they were blue and very clearly marked, I think your delivery drivers with the sign writing on the side of it, or your motorists, I really do believe that that's the last thing that we need to do before we start saying, right, let's make the fines £10,000. I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like, why don't we do that?
Yeah, it's definitely because the amount of money that's been raised through the fines now, I think should the money should be there. That so the number of spaces that we have, they should be highlighted. It's no problem at all. You know, there's a constant argument there in the council about council on their own road liners and stuff like that. So the capability is there to do it, Greg, and I think it should be done. You know,
I'm sure there's a paint solution. You know, I mean the wheelchair is drawn on the road in paint, so I presume we can get blue paint and make sure that people are embarrassed to park in these spaces because they're very, very clearly reserved for people with a disability and a badge.
100% agree with you, Greg. 100% agree with you. You know, that's just, as I say, when you see the delivery drivers, the lorries, and then parked in these spots, you know, and it's pure ignorance. And I think, as you say, Greg, if it was highlighted out in a blue colour, that's
I think the lorry drivers, the delivery drivers, or I was only popping in for 5 minutes drivers, I think it would be really discouraging because it'd be very clear what you're doing, very clear.
Yeah, 100%.
And it would take some guts to sort of not care what 30 people walking past your car thought. All right, but something needs to be done, Thomas. I mean, listen, as I say, we're getting the enforcement, we're getting the judges cracking down. We're getting the message out there that it's, you know, I've spoken to people that don't go into Letterkenny anymore, Thomas, because they've done the 2 loops of the town and they just head home and it's not worth it because they can't, with independence, get out of their vehicle, or they can't unload a wheelchair from the back of the vehicle. And we can't have a situation like that where people's lives are being sort of interfered with like that, I think.
Definitely not. You know, we're trying to encourage people to come into the town to shop, and it should be made as easy as access stuff from as possible. You know, it's not right. You know, Greg, and as you say earlier on, there's people genuinely makes an odd mistake here and there. The highlighting of the parking spots would be a brilliant idea, a brilliant the highlight to leave them alone. You know, there's not enough of these spots, Greg, in the town to start off with. You know, and what's there, please. I encourage people that's listening already, please leave them for the people that need them.
Yeah, and that includes people who have a badge and they're parking in these spaces and the person who the badge is for is not with them. You know, there is a bit of abuse of the badging system as well. Okay, Councillor, thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Councillor Thomas Sean Devine of the 100% Redress Party. Right. When is the council going to fix the light on Castlefin Bridge? The lights, in fact. A woman got her car damaged this morning. Please tell the council to get the lights fixed. We'll inquire in relation to that and bring you that answer. A wee complaint want to make against EasyJet airline. My family and I went to London on Sunday. Everyone got on the plane in Belfast International. No problem with hand luggage. On the way back from Luton Airport, one of our party was asked to put his case into measure. It fitted in, but when asked to put it sideways, it didn't fit. It was a little over. He had to pay £50, seeing as it was bigger. But here's the part I can't understand. He was still allowed to take the case on the plane. Is this just a scam to make more money, or is it the staff on commission for every one they charge? My question is, why was he allowed to take it with him if it was too large for the plane? Well, the oversight is on the outward band. If it's too large for the plane, I'm not sure how it works with EasyJet, but with Ryanair, for an example, the way they have it now is the overhead locker is reserved for the bigger bags. So whilst the bag may have ordinarily fitted under the seat, I don't know where EasyJet put those bags. Then it goes into the top hold. It's to discourage people taking unnecessary stuff with them. I'm not in favour of it, but I think that's the reason. Is it a scam? It's up to you. I mean, do you feel that you've already paid for it and you should be entitled to take it on? You know. Good morning. I've just been listening to that lady being charged for the compost bin, and I thought I'd check my account. I'm also being charged every fortnight for a bin that I have never left out. I do not have any waste. I'm currently trying to contact the company about this. Everyone should check their account and be aware that they're being charged even if this bin is not being used. This happened in our house as well. This bin turned up unsolicited, and then next thing you know, there's this direct debit charge for a bin that will never be put out because we don't have that waste to put into it. And lots of people are finding out for the first time they're being charged over €4 a month for something that they never asked for. We had the same issue with the company 2 months running, but with persistent contact, it was stopped. A caller says there's way too much plastic packaging. Everything is triple wrapped and getting worse. People can stop this by boycotting producers who overuse. Okay, and on it goes. Thanks for that. We were talking yesterday about an increase in the amount of plastic in our bins, and really the conversation kind of was, why are we given so much plastic? You know, we don't want half of it, but yet we have it.
Ready for a giant summer adventure at unmissable value? It's just a small step away in Northern Ireland. Blast off with family deals at the Armagh Planetarium. Early riser offers at the iconic Titanic Belfast. Dive into history at Ulster Folk Museum. Free for under fives. Explore Carrickfergus Castle on the Causeway Coastal Route. Discover a legend at Seamus Heaney's homeplace, Balahi. And epic package deals at Lusty Beg Island Resort for Fermanagh. Book now for great value summer offers at discovernorthernireland.com.
Indulge yourself with friends or a loved one at the Spa at Orchids at the Holyrood Hotel in Bundoran. A midweek or weekend spa break is the perfect way to escape from life for a while. Take a leisurely walk along the Atlantic coast. Enjoy a dip in our private pool, a plunge in our Canadian hot tub, and treatments of your choice before dining in one of the Holyrood Hotel's acclaimed restaurants. The Spa at Orchids. Book now at holyroodhotel.com.
Ensure the safety of your team with SafeTech. We have part-funded courses in first aid, people moving and handling, confined spaces, food hygiene, quad bikes, fire warden, IPAF MUPS, electrofusion, welding and machinery cards for Ireland and UK sites. Also delivering online courses like utilities, water hygiene and construction supervisors. SafeTech can deliver group training at your business premises. To find out more, contact safetech.ie today.
If you're getting new furniture or it's time for a change, pay a visit to McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. There you'll find a selection of suites, beds and bedroom furniture, dining room and occasional furniture. You'll be amazed by the selection and pleasantly surprised by the prices. At McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. And online at mcginleysfurniture.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Get back to school sorted with all the essentials from school jumpers to shoes. Visit our kidswear department in store or shop online at mcelhinney's.com today.
A little cloudy this morning with patchy rain, drizzle and mist, staying cloudy through the afternoon, but the patchy rain will clear later with perhaps a few sunny spells developing, temperatures 15 to 18 degrees. I'm in studio now with Stephen O'Donnell. Stephen, how are you getting on? Thanks so much for calling in.
No problem, Greg. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. I might move this in this direction if that's okay.
Sure.
Right. You were an early entrant into the Defective blocks scheme. Was this scheme one that you signed up to, the 9010, or the one that followed?
No,
or?
I started off in the 9010 and then I got moved onto the enhanced scheme then after a period of time.
All right. So you were an early mover back in 2020?
2020 we started the operation where we got tested and stuff like that at that point. About probably due to the testing, it created some cracks inside the house, and in June 2021 we had to kind of move out on safety grounds. It just was getting a bit chancy, just where one of the cracks where there was a steel beam was holding bison slabs and everything. We had to kind of just get out of there and engage with the scheme. I mean, after we kind of got the quotations, we realised there's a colossal shortfall, as everybody remembers, back in the 9010 scheme. So we felt we're paying rent, we're going to have to do something here anyway. So we got ourselves moving anyway, and we had a lot of paperwork. Now, I would be fairly used to paperwork. You're putting it in, you're getting a lot of further informations back again. It kept going on, the cycle was going on, getting very, very frustrating. You know, but again, it was new to everybody, so you had to kind of tolerate it a wee bit. So as this was going on, we had a quotation done, but the cost of both product and labour was going through the roof at the time. It was huge. So we got started.
This was really kind of the time the the war in Ukraine started as well, so concrete and everything else was
just
just
it seemed to go up
and wood and everything went.
Everything was going
on
a weekly basis nearly. You know, you go down and you get a price for something, and they tell you this price is for 10 days. After that, we don't know. So we eventually got going. We started in October 22, and we were fully completed on the 31st of January 24, and we received our final payment from the enhanced scheme around mid to late March 2024 is when we received it. So when we were finished, we were above the cap, and we'd paid about 25,000 in rent, which we hadn't got back as well. You know.
So you didn't get the €15,000 contribution to the rent?
No, because we're over the cap anyway. It was irrelevant.
Of course, because that comes out of the 420.
That comes out of the 420.
Yeah.
It wasn't a rebuild cost.
Yeah, I get you.
And one of the other frustrations, I suppose, as well, was we paid 7,000 in
testing
at the very start. While now, if you go onto the scheme and you get 420. The testing now is costing approximately $600-700,
and that's just for the initial visual. And then after that, so. Before we get into the figures, was it a full demolition?
Full demo, yeah.
Did you take out the foundations?
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever was there before, it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you notice anything or did you build and notice anything in the removal of the foundations?
It was, to be honest with you, there was no consistency there. It was hit and miss. Some parts of the blocks, because my house is on a slope, some parts of the blocks came apart like Weetabix. Other parts you need the rock hammer. Wow. There was no logic to it at all.
And were there any trends with prevailing winds and anything that you noticed?
Not particularly, no. Okay. We would be liable to get a lot of wind on one side. The big one that for us that actually created most of the cracks was we pumped the cavity in 2015, and Semtex would have done the same job. It absolutely sent it wild, after that.
And the moisture can carry to the internal blocks then as well.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah, and once we had that core sample done, we had a bay window, and the core sample was taken inside the bay window. There was a crack appeared that day, and then by the time it accelerated, by the time we moved out of the house, which is the one that we were really wary of, you put your fingers on it then, that was within 6 months.
Right,
really.
So you're 42,000 over the cap. Is that including the 25, or is the 25 rent
25
in addition
on top
to
of
it?
that.
All right, so just in terms of building 42k over. So where does that leave you? And what were you trying to sort of do during the process? You must have seen this coming, like your bank, the housing authority. I don't know. So what was your process going through?
So we realised obviously fairly early, even though we're the 420, we were still going to be short. So we were trying to access money. So all through the process, I was in contact with my bank to see was there anything set up, regarding anybody with defective blocks. And they kept informing me as I went along, there's a team getting set up, This went on to close to the end. So by the end, they had nothing there. We had to go to the credit union. We went to credit union. We borrowed 50,000 out of the credit union to get us finished, to get everybody paid as best as we could. And then after that, there was something in place then from the AIB. I went back to them then and asked them.
It was a specific product for any top-up required for their customers in this process.
So it was from what I've been told, it's at a lower rate than that the credit union would be charging me. But when I went and asked the AIB about it, they says, you're finished, so you don't qualify for this loan. Even though the loan that I took out was to finish the house. They says, you don't qualify, sorry. That's it. End of story. End of engagement.
So one of the hopes you would have had, I suppose, was this 10% lift, which really I don't think applies to anyone at this point. But you would have perhaps had some hope if it applied to you, that in some way you could claw this back and maybe write down the credit union loan. But because of the dates that are involved in that, you're not going to qualify for the update. So again, this is a tale of being punished for being an early mover. Effectively, you missed out on the testing. You've missed out on a more attractive product, perhaps with the AIB, and now you find that the 10% increase in the cap in the scheme you don't qualify retrospectively for it. You're in no man's land.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you would call us an early mover or whatever you want to call it. When this 10% was announced anyway, there was no word of a date or anything like that. So then this date appeared, Now, I've tried to get some statistics on it, which is really kind of the plea that I kind of have. So what I've been told is that there was, at this state that they declared, there was 43 houses totally finished, remediated.
You're one of those.
Of the 43 houses, 20 of them were an option 2, an outer leaf remediation. And of the 23 that are remaining, only 9 are over the 420 cap.
Okay.
So there actually is only 9 people involved.
And you've missed this by 2 months, effectively, 2 months and a bit.
Missed it by 2 months, or if you go by the payment, I've missed it by 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know.
And given the small amount, it wouldn't take a massive expansion of the retrospective element of this to catch those 9 houses.
No, well, like if all 9 houses were the full 10% over, it comes to 378,000. But a couple of people have contacted me since who were finished before that date, and they weren't anywhere near the 42,000. So at the minute it stands, there is 3 of us I know of. There's 6 other people out there, which is kind of what I'm looking for. There's the 6 people out there. So the cost at a max at the minute is 318,000. That's if everybody was at the 42,000.
But obviously you can't find out people's information because of privacy reasons and stuff. So are you sort of trying to gather together like an early movers group to try and get some sort of a campaign going?
Well, not a campaign. I'd like the numbers. If I'm going to put an appeal into the housing minister, it could be on deaf ears.
I think it's going to be an appeal. It's going to be more of a campaign than an appeal because they would have gone through all of this.
They've gone through it. Now, from what I've been informed, is this will come in. The date is there. It's going to be legislated, the date. So it's going to be an amendment, and whether they sign off on an amendment, and we've seen in the past, like the pretty cold way that they dealt with the amendments in the past. You know, they just...
And in a way, though, if you were to get the extra 10%, I mean, it wouldn't fix everything, and the scheme wouldn't be perfect, but you could argue it was a scheme that, for the most part, worked for you.
It would to an extent. See, but
I know there's the rent, you know, and you're not going to, everything's not going to be clawed back. I know that, but I mean, you know, for the most part, you know, if you could meet much of the extra loan that you had to get, and I know, of course, you've been putting your own money in here and there, but you know, it would show that the scheme's not terrible for you. You know what I mean?
Not.
So it would be in the government's advantage, I think, to widen this.
That's been the case in a lot of cases. I think throughout the whole process. They've come close to having something great, and then it's just like they put the devil in the detail, which just wipes the feet from under you.
The one thing I haven't heard an explanation for is the cut-off date, the retrospective cut-off date being March 2024.
So what I've been informed is that is a year since the enhanced scheme became active, and they're saying it has to happen on a yearly basis. But nobody at any time mentioned that this date would happen. I'm not saying I could have delayed the end of the house. We were rushing like mad to get into it.
That's where it starts getting frustrating. But you couldn't see which way the wind was blowing.
No, you couldn't see.
Because you would really, if the truth be told, if you weren't to use hindsight, you would have had to have waited in excess of a year. It's not till March, because you wouldn't have known that March date until such time as it was announced. So, I mean, that's not.
No, and it's a minimal amount of people that this is affecting, and it could be a case that they're thinking, listen, there's only 9 of them. They're not going to make that much noise. You know what I mean? Like, and even from some of the fellas I've been talking to, they'd kind of had made their peace with it, but you know, I've kind of started a fire a wee bit in them because they're saying,
table,
you know, why should we do this here? You know, it makes a very little difference to the government.
Well, it's going to be a many billion scheme. So if it turns out to be under 400 to catch everyone effectively, that's chicken feed in the wider scale of things.
That's to them, but it's a lot to us.
But it's also possible that you are just an oversight, and maybe, you know, with the right correspondence, it might be addressed. TDs, local councillors, are they on board? Are they going to?
I've informed them anyway. I just wanted to get a full picture, if I could, before I really go at it. So, like, I mean, if anybody out there knows of someone who was finished prior to that date,
March 24, by the way.
March 24. A lot of people have been in contact with me post that to say they haven't got the 10%, and I understand that that's frustrating. It isn't on board yet. And all the rest, but at least they have hope. Currently, we've none.
They're entitled to it, whether they've received it or not. That's another question. How were the stage payments for you?
Stage payments were not too bad because I was early. Probably the council didn't have that big of a workload. The final one was the one that was
And just finally, because I don't have much time left,
Sure.
Stephen, if people say, right, I'm in that situation too, and they want to contact you, what's the best way to do so? We'll retain your info here if they want to give us a buzz.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to give you a buzz, you can thing me, contact you, and you can pass on the numbers. I have no problem. Time is of the essence. I know there's a meeting again on the 20th of this month, so time is of the essence.
All right, listen, Stephen, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Stephen O'Donnell, give us a call. We'll put you in contact with Stephen. We'll be back with more after the news and obituary notices.
Looking for a great family day out? Don't miss the Ardra show this Saturday 9th of August at Pierce Memorial Park. Enjoy livestock displays, a giant marquee, dog show, fun fair, vintage machinery, trade stands and more. There's free kids entertainment, a fully serviced restaurant and live music in the afternoon. A perfect Saturday for all ages. So grab the gang and head to Ardra this weekend.
Roll on more full trolleys for even less with Lidl Plus. This week, you could spend just €98 on a full trolley worth €129 and save over an incredible €30. Push your savings further with new offers on the Lidl Plus app every week. Scan, pay and save with Lidl Plus. T's and C's apply. See Lidl.ie/Lidl Plus savings.
Hybrid, plug-in hybrid, electric. Don't get confused. Get excited with Toyota, Ireland's best-selling car brand. At Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles, you get the power of choice. There's our wide range to see, including the Toyota CHR and the all-electric BZ4X, with power-up boosters of up to €3,000 and flexible payment options available. So order now at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world. T's and C's apply. Best-selling claim based on latest figures.
Join me, Marty Friel, this and every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. Try their new interactive dartboards with lots of games that all the family can play. See arena7.ie.
Discover a new way to cook outdoors with the Ninja Woodfire Electric Barbecue Grill, now at Ben Sweeney Euronics. It's a grill, smoker and air fryer all in one, with 7 cooking functions, no charcoal, gas or flames needed. Woodfire technology delivers real smoky flavour anywhere, in a garden, patio or in the campsite. Weather resistant and ready year round. Get the Ninja Woodfire Electric Barbecue Grill at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Letterkenny and Dunlow.
Nutria's Weanling Crunch is on promotion at your local Homeland. Buy 10 bags of Nutria's Weanling Crunch ATP and get one free, or €15 off per tonne in bulk. The Nutria's Beef ATP pack enhances animal performance through maximising rumen efficiency. T's and C's apply. For product details, contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist, or see nutrias.ie.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. Donegal is to receive an extra €1.6 million under the local improvement scheme, bringing the county's total this year so far to €2.39 million. The LIS is geared toward facilitating repairs on private roads in rural areas which are used by local farmers and residents. Donegal County Council and those living along the roads being improved by the scheme will each be expected to provide 10% of the total cost. The remainder of the money will come from government. Junior Minister Charlie McConalogue says Donegal has again received the highest LIS allocation in the state this year, but acknowledges that more is needed.
I think we do need to see a significant increase in funding here. There is a significant demand. Basically, what this funding covers is private roads which are not under the control of the local authority. But obviously there's a significant cost involved in terms of the repair, very much beyond the means. The vast majority of instances of those who would use these roads is something I believe we need to see significant additional funding to help address a backlog. I think the fact that we're the largest and highest allocation in the country is important for Donegal, but there's certainly a lot more to do here.
A Donegal-based cabin supplier says it will have to expand its operation in Bridgend and employ more people if a government proposal to exempt larger garden homes up to 45 square metres from planning permission is adopted. Luxury tiny homes say the proposal, which is currently out to public consultation, is a bold step toward smarter housing in Ireland. The government has indicated that, subject to approval following the current public consultation, the new planning exemptions could come into effect before the end of this year. Co-owner Natasha Doherty says if it goes ahead, it'll be good news for the company.
We're extremely busy as it is, and a lot of people are going for planner permission. We currently do have a long list of inquiries of people sitting with a deposit ready to go as soon as this passes. We already do have a few offices around the country, but we would definitely be needing more men to be building these units and cutting them out and plumbers and everything. So it definitely would be good news for us as a business.
Donald Trump's new tariffs for the European Union are now in effect. The higher 15% rate kicked in at 5 a.m. Irish time. Taoiseach Simon Harris says the arrangement provides some certainty after months of uncertainty, but he's warning there's a lot more to be done.
But we have a degree of certainty now that the headline tariff rate is 15% and it's in now. Tariffs are a bad idea. Nothing changes that reality. But there's a huge amount of detail that still needs to be worked out and teased through in the time ahead. So, for example, there are some sectors where we have agreed with the United States that there'll actually be zero tariffs. And then the other big one that remains a lot of work to do on this is the pharma sector.
Donegal County Council says the L12721 Marble Hill to Port Nabla Road is blocked for resurfacing today and tomorrow. The works are taking place in the townlands of Knockduff and Parkmore. Access to the Shandon Hotel and Knockduff Holiday Park is available at all times via the main Marble Hill Road of the N56 at Faugher National School. You can view a map showing the affected stretch on our website, highlandradio.com. And the gang holding Gina Herity hostage in Haiti has made a ransom demand. It's understood to be for a significant amount of money. With more, here's Stephanie Rowan.
It's now been 5 days since Mayo woman Gina Herity and a number of others were taken hostage from the orphanage where she works. The Irish Times is reporting the criminal gang responsible has now made a ransom demand. It was raised during a conversation with two people from the organisation where she works, little brothers and sisters. It's understood to be a substantial amount of money and beyond the organisation's resources. As a result, colleagues of the hostages have been told significant progress in releasing them was unlikely over the next few days. Kidnappings in Haiti are common, with the Taoiseach saying every effort is being made to secure Gina's release.
Cloudy this morning with patchy rain, drizzle and mist, staying cloudy into the afternoon, but the patchy rain will clear later. Some sunny spells will develop in highs of 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, westerly breezes. Tonight we'll see a mix of cloud and clear spells with some lingering patchy rain and drizzle in lowest temperatures of 11 to 13. Tomorrow mostly cloudy with isolated sunny spells, some patchy light rain in top temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees Celsius on Friday. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with headlines at 11 o'clock. Check all the day's news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notices this Thursday morning, August 7th. The death has taken place of William John Liam Porter, 36, Brayfield, Claudy, County Derry, formerly of Buncrana and Athy, County Kildare, reposing at McLaughlin's Funeral Home, 414A, Ballyquin Road, Dungiven today from 12 noon until 2 p.m. and again from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Funeral leaving from his late home tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 for Requiem Mass at 2 o'clock in St Patrick's Church, Claudy, followed by interment in the adjoining graveyard. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on mcn.live. Family flowers only, donations if wished in lieu to WHSCT Sparing Unit, Elton care of McLaughlin Funeral Directors, Dungiven. The death has occurred of Patrick O'Donnell, Scotland, and Rossbeg, County Donegal. His remains will repose at Shovelin's Funeral Home, Sandfield, Ardra, tomorrow afternoon from 3:30 until 4:45, followed by removal to St Connell's Church, Kilclooney, travelling via Rossbeg and Portnew, arriving at 6 o'clock. Funeral Mass will take place at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Patrick's Funeral Mass will be live streamed on Shovelin's Funeral Home Facebook page. The death has taken place of Michael McGarry Rathdonnell Letterkenny. Michael's remains will be reposing at his late residence today from 2 p.m. until 9 p.m. Funeral from there tomorrow morning, going to St Columba's Church, Kilmacrennan, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjacent cemetery. Family flowers only, donations in lieu if desired, to Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or Charles McClafferty Funeral Director. The death has taken place of John Joseph White, the Water's Edge, River Row, Moville. John's remains will repose at his home today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. Funeral from there on Saturday morning at 10:30 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Pius X Church Moville, followed by private cremation in Lakelands Crematorium Cavan. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on movilleparish.com. The family home is private on the morning of the funeral, please. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Cree, care of any family member or Eamon McLaughlin, funeral director. The death has taken place of Bernadette Logue Corvish Carndonna. Bernadette's remains are reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:20 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in Sacred Heart Church Carndonna, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on carndonnaparish.com. Family time from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice or the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member or Eamon McLaughlin, funeral director. The death has occurred of Mary Fury, the Hill Kelly Beggs, formerly of Dubin Glenties, County Donegal, reposing at her daughter Patricia's residence, Fintra Road, Kelly Beggs, today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. Removal on Saturday morning at 10:30 to St Mary of the Visitation Church, Kelly Beggs, for 11 o'clock funeral mass, which will be streamed on mcn.live. Burial afterwards in Frosses Cemetery. The death has taken place of Norman Kerr, 102 Yerney Road, Strabane. Funeral service at his home this afternoon at 1 o'clock, followed by burial in Yerney Graveyard, Strabane. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Mary Curie, and the Foyle Hospice, care of any family member or William Key or Terence McClintock, funeral director. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Summer's here! Yay! So it's time to stock up on sun protection at Aldi. There's something for everyone, like Lacora SPF 50 Plus Kids Roll-On at only $3.49, SPF 30 Dry Mist Spray for $3.99, and After Sun with Soothing Aloe Vera at just $2.49. All water resistant and dermatologically tested. So spread the word. And the sun cream, while stocks last.
Now, why is the road from Carragart... Sorry, I'm struggling to speak this week. I'm tongue-tied. Why is the road from Carragart Garda Barracks closed when it's only half a mile of road from Duntally to the main N56 road that's actually closed? I took such a detour yesterday trying to get home, only to realise there was no need for it at all. The road should only be closed from Duntally and divert there. I think someone from the council needs to have a look at that and see the awful unnecessary detour they're putting on people. I was hoping they were going to cut the weeds hanging onto the dangerous bends at like a bridge, but unfortunately not. I don't know how all of this works, but if you were going from Carragart to Creasler, you can't go on that road. And the signs, I did see one of these signs actually, it says local access only. So I drove through, I presumed that means that if you know where you're going and you're not following a sat-nav or what have you, you would know what to do. So I don't know the reasons for that. I imagine it's that to divert traffic travelling from Carragart to Creasler because that part of the road is closed. And that's the only reason I can imagine it to be the case. Local traffic is permitted still. I was in a shopping centre car park one day and I was shocked to see a Garda car sitting in a disabled space while one of them went to the shop. I sat watching for quite a while before they came out, and I assure you they were neither disabled or in a hurry. Car parks, private car parks are different, and some people, was that a mother and child space or what have you? I don't know. It's not a good look anyway. There's no need for anyone to use disabled spots. I see ones that have the badge belonging to their mum or dad, and they haven't got their parents with them, but still use the spot just because they have the badge. It's not hard for people to walk a wee bit. And another one, I went into hospital to see my friend. I drove both car parks, could not get parked. It was 2:30 and lots of cars were doing the same. I never checked car parks over the road was the same. Sorry, I even checked car park over the road was the same, so I had to go home. I didn't see my friend there. Okay, yeah, I did mention that too in my conversation with Thomas, that there are people also abusing the badges. Another quote says, cars who park in disabled parking spaces should be clamped on the spot. €1,000 release fee. Go to the new Aldi on the Neil T. Blaney Road any Saturday evening from 7 p.m. and look and watch how many cars park in the disabled space for convenience and space around fancy cars. It's ridiculous. Shops should have the disabled parking spaces monitored and clamped as soon as people walk away from the car. This has to be monitored and people should be fined heavily. They won't park again in these spots, says that listener. Letterkenny is a disgrace with curbs for anyone with a wheelchair. Never mind parking. The town itself is a disgrace for everyone in a wheelchair. I only have a child's pushchair and I can't imagine. I don't know how people in wheelchairs manage. And there was an interesting experiment not so long ago whereby, people in position of power, councillors, etc., were invited to try and get around a town in a wheelchair. I think Donegal Town was certainly one of them at the time. And all of a sudden, those cracks in the pavement that catch the wheels, even the dropped curves where there's still like over an inch, it's not actually a truly dropped curb, all that kind of stuff. You only read sandwich boards. You kind of only realise it, I'm told, when you're sitting in a wheelchair and trying to get about the place. So you're quite right there. It has been proven. And there also was a study recently on disability access. I think Dunloe was certainly one of the towns that featured where there were assessments of how accessible certain places are, high curbs, steps and all that kind of stuff. How can people who've just had a hip done and can't walk cope if they don't have a disabled badge? I don't know what the story is there. At the end of the day, they're not permanently disabled. There is a process. I don't know how soon after the hip operation. I think you are advised to walk on it nowadays. Greg, what's the story with revenue and pensions? My sister got a letter a few weeks ago to say she owed them money even though she retired 2 years ago. I myself was told I was owed money, but had to do a tax return, which I wouldn't have a clue how to do. Surely they already have all my information. It's 2025. How does such a thing happen? In terms of owing money, there's an issue with pensions, and we might do something on this a little later on. It's if you get a state pension and you have a private pension, I believe the private pension is taxable potentially, and that's where people are being caught out. In terms of having overpaid tax, you could use one of those tax rebate companies. They'll take a percentage from you, I don't know what it is, and they do all that for you. Maybe that's an option. So half a loaf's better than no bread at all. Now, it's not half of the money they take, but maybe that's the way to do it. Driving along the dual carriageway, we all know where that is because there's only one. I noticed lots of yellow ragwort plants. It's poisonous to animals. It's illegal to have on farmland. If it spreads to farmlands, they can be prosecuted. The issue was recently highlighted of ragwort growing outside Leinster House and it was removed immediately. Why is nothing else done about it on dual carriageways? This used to be a role for Gardaí. Do you remember, or maybe you don't, but you would get, local Gardaí going into farmers' fields and highlighting stuff like ragwort plants that shouldn't be there. They actually quite literally did that. Maybe you've got a memory of that, 086 60 25,000. But yep, that's public property. Why is it there? Greg, I saw an ad for an Oasis ticket last night. One ticket, €600, and that is the legitimate cost. Who's paying these prices for one concert ticket? I don't know. But maybe they're not going on holidays this year. Maybe Oasis is just the biggest band they've ever followed. Maybe it brings back all the memories of their youth. And maybe, just maybe, they travel up and down and say, well, I'm not paying 250 quid for a hotel, so that means it's 350. And, I work really hard. I'm going to treat myself. And you know what? If that's the case, fair play to them. I wouldn't pay 50 quid for it. But it's, I suppose, their money. It's crazy money. But you know what? There are some people that love things so much that even a 2-hour concert ends up being the memory of a lifetime. And 600 quid for that level of happiness, it's excessive for many. But do you know what? That's not too bad at all, I suppose, if it brings you joy. But I take your point as well. I'm in your camp, but as I've got older, I understand that different people like different things. Now, Anthony Hunter. Hello, Anthony. You're in Ards in Creasla, and you're 22 today. Happy birthday from all of your mates. Good morning. Could you please wish Pat McColgan, Penny Lane, Lifford, a very happy 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Pat. Have a great day. Sending you lots of love on your special day from Maeve, Martin, and all of us here at Highland Radio and our listeners. Let me see if there's any more requests. Just for now, no. Some more general parking comments, which I'll get to, but we've a lot to get through. In fact, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Joe Kelly, talking history. It was a very special day yesterday for Daniel O'Connell because it was, as I say, a significant milestone. We're going to be talking about him, his life, his legacy, that and so much more besides in the next hour and a half or hour and 3/4.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday the 7th of August. Jackpot day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €8,400 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S19. It's game number 32. The jackpot number is 40. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 86, 89, 77, 10, 67, 88, 62, 87, 27, and finally 54. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Tonight at the 56th Clonmoney Festival, there's Paddy Tracy at 7 and Derek Ryan on stage at 9. Tomorrow Friday, Ryan Turner, Claudia Buckley and Jimmy Buckley. See more at clonmoneyfestival.com.
Irish beef prices pass out UK prices. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, as Finnish cattle supplies plummet, factories are forced to pay more to farmers. As export fever hits marts, suckler weanlings surge by €800 a head. We talk to the farmer who stood up to trespassers on his farm, how to manage back to school costs, and everything you need to know ahead of the Tullamore Show. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
All right, so DJ Calvin Harris has divided fans, I read, with a post announcing the birth of his baby boy. That's not the issue here. The Scottish DJ, who's married to Radio 1 host Vic Hope, praised his superhero wife on Instagram in a series of photos taken in Ibiza showing the moment after son Mika's home birth. He also uploaded a shot of Vicky's placenta alongside images appearing to show the organ being dehydrated and turned into pills for consumption. Stacey Stewart is founder of Mama Placenta Remedies, and she's from Strabane. Hi, Stacey.
Hey, how's things?
Good. I'm just curious, from someone who sort of works in this space all of the time, when you see articles like this and it's instantly a debate as to whether it's good or, oh, it's terrible and it's yucky. Is that frustrating, or do you welcome sort of the opportunity to discuss it when it is thrust into the limelight?
I will suppose, coming from my personal experience working with it and seeing the benefits that mums are getting, I can get a bit frustrated because I totally honour it, but I'm also very open for discussion with it. I love educating people, and I love being able to have that discussion with people. So yes, it's definitely caused some stir on the internet.
Yeah, now I'm not saying it's the same thing for a second, okay? But lots of people listening like to eat a steak, but they don't necessarily want to see, the cow being slaughtered or butchered and the steak being harvested and delivered to them. Do you know what I mean? Do you think it's a little bit about the similar here, in that I think what the shock factor is that he showed pictures of things that maybe a lot of people don't need to see, but the processing of the placenta is a means to an end. Do you get the analogy I'm trying to make there?
Oh, totally. But I also do believe that I think it's quite concerning that the backlash that he got it shows how disconnected that we actually are from birth. It's a very natural process. I think birth has become quite medicalised and sterile, but it was only less than 100 years ago that we were birthing at home. We were birthing exactly how Calvin Harris and his wife experienced. I think we've just become quite detached from that, and I suppose this is why now people are saying that it is maybe offensive. but it's a very normal and natural part of life.
As I say, I don't think it's like, from my perspective, I don't believe I need to see it. Because, but that's me personal, right? It's very subjective, but I don't think it's offensive. It's there, it's part of nature, and it's part of childbirth. And I have seen it in the flesh. Don't get me wrong. I just don't feel I need to. Do you get where I'm coming from? It does, but that doesn't mean that I don't think the work that you do, or whatever people choose to do, in and of itself is yucky. If that makes sense.
I think as well, though, it's because we don't see it enough. It's not a common enough thing. If we saw this every day, it would be a very normal part of life, and we wouldn't find it disgusting. And this is probably one of my biggest movements of doing what I do. And I suppose on my social medias, I'm quite a big advocate for showing the placenta, but I also have 2 young children, and I wanted for their generation to be very normalized, that we won't be looking at it, the way maybe our generation and older generations are looking at it.
So what is the placenta? Just actually, let's break it down, because we talk about stuff and presume everybody knows precisely what it is. So as part of the process, what is the placenta?
Well, the placenta is basically your baby's lifeline. It acts as a multifunctional organ. It grows inside the mummy's womb alongside the baby. It gives all the nutrients from mummy's body through the placenta into the baby in order to have a healthy pregnancy.
I mean, it's a miracle. I believe, to be honest with you, the whole process is an absolute miracle from inception or conception, for that matter, right through to birth and beyond too, even down to the fact that I think we're one of the only animals, if I could put it like that we continue to mature after birth, which really is quite fascinating, and the gap in the top of the head and all that kind of stuff. Right, so what at Mama Placenta Remedies, it's not just placenta either. So I think some people choose to dry and eat it and see the benefits of that. Do you do that as well, or what work do you do with placenta, umbilical cords, etc.?
I try to make it in a much more of a pleasant and discreet manner. Each to their own. If you want to eat it with a knife and fork, then absolutely go for it. But for me personally, I think it's a lot more easier ingested through capsules. So I basically dry the placenta out. The capsules are the main part of this process. And it be dried out, pulsified, and placed in the capsules. So it's basically like your own natural multivitamin. I also do offer different remedies. Because the placenta is so high in stem cells and regenerative cells, I do a cosmetic oil, which is really good for the skin. I also do liquid remedies. So kind of like a rescue remedy. You can add it into your water.
So are you doing that for the mother? Is it, or so say for instance, all of the products that you create, the creams, the tablets, whatever it might be, that is always specifically for the mum?
For the mum and some for the baby. So obviously the cosmetic oil is a topical that can be used on the baby as well. There is an essence that I use, which would be quite similar to like a rescue remedy that can also be safe for baby. It's really good to kind of heal them on like a vibrational level. So that can be added into maybe their bobo or the breast, whatever way they're feeding.
And in terms of umbilical cord keepsakes, what do you do?
So I place it into a heart shape. I then spray it either silver or pink, depending on the sex of the baby, and then I frame it. So it's a very unique, personalised keepsake. I also paint the placenta as well with food colouring. So then this gives, you can probably see it in the back, this gives then a placenta print, so like the tree of life.
Yeah. From the distance, is that the thing that bears some resemblance from my being removed from it to a jellyfish?
Do you know what? That's a very good description. It would, if I was explaining it, it would have quite the same feel of a jellyfish.
It looks. And as I say, I was reluctant to say that because I didn't want it to sound like I was being in any way detracting. It's beautiful what you've created, and the heart over your shoulder as well. Is that one of your works with an umbilical cord?
Yeah, that's as
so
well.
I mean, it's very personal, isn't it? I mean, you're not going to walk into someone's house and go, "Oh, what's that?" You know, you would have to sort of want to know the story behind it. They're not obviously. That's why it's so personal, because it's not in your face if you were to put that on your mantelpiece, for an example.
Well, this is it. I have tried my best to make this as attractive and as acceptable as possible. It's somebody that's going to do this is really going to value the likes of these keepsakes, because you're not going to be able to go into a shop and buy it. This is something so unique, and it also represents that lifeline between baby and
well, it's everything. It is. It doesn't just represent it. It quite literally is, isn't it? I mean, that umbilical cord from day dot. Well, not quite literally day dot. Is the lifeline. That's what drains all the resources out of mum. Leaves them banjacks. Do you know what I mean? No, give me a break, baby. I mean, when you think about it, this thing forms inside you and just spends 9 months drawing all of your resources, growing and stretching your body out and adjusting your bones, and it's really just a miracle.
It is, and I think this is another thing as well, that the placenta is probably one of the most disrespected and neglected organs, but it's the only multifunctional organ. It basically is created within the womb and gives your baby everything. If there's no placenta, there's no human life. And I think this is probably another thing for me of why I'm so passionate about it, because, when you actually are hands-on with this placenta, you will then totally respect and appreciate the job that it's done.
Okay, and does something like this conversation, presumably, hopefully it would spark interests, because, if people are into this, if this is what they want to do, why the hell not? As I say, it's probably not for me, but there's lots of things not for me. It's not to do with mums or childbirth of the process. It's just the raw material. It's just to be completely honest with you, Stacey. But that being said, even over the course of our conversation, and I'm looking at the things that you create, certainly the umbilical cord thing, I can see why there's a market there. It's like a picture of a mum and a baby, but it's multiply that by 1 million, because it quite literally is the thing that united the two of them.
Yeah, well, thanks for seeing the beauty in that. I always say that as well. This might not be for everybody, and that's okay. But I needed to make this accessible for local mums, because, whenever I had done it personally myself, it wasn't really a thing, it wasn't talked about. And I also do think that mums deserve the right to feel supported and nourished postpartum, because I do think that it's one of the phases that are, again, is so neglected, and a lot of mums don't feel supported after they have a baby, and they feel quite abandoned. And, I'm not going to say that this is going to cure everything, but it's an amazing tool to have.
Yeah. And sometimes I think too, mums can feel a little bit detached from the whole experience.
100%.
Because it is kind of so bizarre, not bizarre, but this grounds them in that experience, I suppose, to some extent. And also too, there's lots of misconceptions out there, like people don't consider the late onset of postnatal depression and stuff. People believe it's just straight away and all this kind of stuff, and moms feeling guilty for not feeling a connection that other moms feel. And I just think this is a process to perhaps help that, or at least, in a cathartic way, make them think about it. Because it's all human reactions, and we're all human, and none of us are perfect to get it right all of the time. All right. Yeah, great. Well done.
Thank you.
I think this is one of those things. It does nobody anyone harm. If people want to do it, they want to do it. And fair play to them, and they're clearly going to be working with a lovely person in yourself, Stacey, if that's a route they want to go down. I presume people can just search Mama Placenta Remedies on socials, and they'll get you there, will they?
Yeah, definitely. So my socials is Mama Placenta Remedies. I'm actually just at the finish line of my website as well, so it'll be completed over the next week or two. So it'll be mamaplacentaremedies.co.uk.
And I will just say, if you don't like purple, you might be in.
You might be in trouble.
You might be in trouble. That's also, but don't let. All right. Okay, yeah, everything. I mean, if I was that chest of drawers behind you, I wouldn't sit there too long. It's going to get a spray. It looks lovely. Thanks so much, Stacey.
Thank you
All right,
so
look
much.
after yourself.
Thanks
Bye
for
bye.
having
All
me.
right, that's Stacey Stewart, there, founder of Mama Placenta Remedies Strabane. So, what do you think? You've heard, you know, as I say, sometimes are people's personal decisions that aren't harmful, they're not immoral. You know, should they be up for debate? Really, should it be like? So it's like more like, is it for me or is it not for me? I don't know. But speaking to Stacey, she's you can see she's doing it for all the right reasons, which is. I find that interesting. What do you think? 086 60 25,000 if you're outside the Republic. 00353 86 60 25,000. Give us a call too on 074 91 25,000.
Má tá tú idir chuig ní agus 7 bliain díos, joigh tú cuireadh scág hástáil potóige báilíon HSE siar an aisce íonna. Cabhraíonn an scág hástáil le cóirí luadáil se potóige aimsiú, solamíonn aon symptom le feiceáil agus bíonn sin níos fosa í a chóiráil chomhár.
I'm Fionnuala Fibre O'Farrell Flynn, racing across the country to keep up with NBI's fibre rollout. Over 50 broadband providers are using NBI's network to bring high-speed fibre broadband to homes across Ireland. So from Ballyliffin to Ballybuffet, homeowners can pick whatever package suits their needs and still get all the benefits of rural Ireland's dedicated fibre broadband network. Connect at nbi.ie.
NBI is delivering the government's national broadband plan.
Another connection. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have worn heels.
Why leave the magic moments and great scenes you've captured sitting on your phone when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using McGee's website or one of their in-store kiosks, you just upload your photos, select the ones you want, and have them printed instantly within an hour, or use the 24-hour service. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed, and old photos can be digitally restored. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
Getting your first electric car is like meeting your partner's family for the first time. Nerves are normal. You were stressed about awkward silence with her dad. Now you chat for hours about sport. You're worried her mum wouldn't like you. Now she likes you better than her own son. Likewise, once you experience how great an EV can be, you'll never look back, especially if it's a Skoda. Order your electric Enyaq or Elrock today.
Skoda.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396.
Náidé mail nuair a oinn tú de chuireadh an scág hástáil potóige íonna. Glíorainn ar a 8 a 9 a 45 a 45 a 55. No túr cuairt ar bowelscreen.ie. Own HSE.
A caller says, I took the placenta capsules after my second child and the recovery was amazing compared to the recovery with my first child. No baby blues or postpartum. I just felt amazing and energy levels were through the roof. Even coping with the night feeds, etc. I can't recommend them enough. I'm delighted that worked for you. By the way, a mobile phone was found on Kerrykill Main Street on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. It contains cash and bank cards. So this was found or lost on Kerrykill Main Street, Caroline? Found or lost? Found. So we have it? We don't literally have it, but someone has it. The lady has it. Okay, so you will know someone in your life, or it could be you. Did you lose your mobile phone? You might have thought you lost it somewhere else, but you lost it on Kerrykill Main Street on Wednesday. It contains cash and cards. Give us a call. We'll pass on the number. People load their entire life into their phones. It's bad enough the phone's in there, but then cards and keepsakes and everything in the wallets, and that's fine. It's up to them, but problem is you lose that, you lose everything. We found one. Kerrykill, 086 60 25,000 yesterday. The 6th of August, it marked the 250th anniversary of the birth of Daniel O'Connell, the man known as the Liberator, or the King of the Beggars. O'Connell is the most commemorated of all Irish historical figures, with 9 cities and towns around the country naming their main streets in his honour, including the capital, where his statue is given pride of place. Pride of place on our show right now is Dr. Joe Kelly, historian and author. Good morning to you, Joe.
Maidin why good Greg is the luck day. Good morning to yourself and to all listening in Highland Radio.
Right, okay. Let's dig into this. Shall we start off with an overview as to why he is so renowned, or should we start at the beginning and I'll work our way up to that? Like, what was his youth and education, and the Ireland, in fact, that he grew up in, like?
Yeah, well, the Ireland he grew up in is very important. It was a time that the penal laws were in effect basically anti-Catholic laws. That's the first thing. The second thing was it was a time when British dominance and colonialism was actually getting to its high point. At this stage, the national schools hadn't been put up in every nearly townland in Ireland. You know, one flag, one king, one country, one language, that whole motto. So 1832 is the establishment really of all the national schools. So he's coming at a time when Ireland and the Irish native culture is at a demise. And at the same time, the famine is about to happen in 1847. So like when you're thinking he's born in 1775, and there's going to be massive change between that and the end of his life. He actually dies in the year of the famine, 1847. So between that period, a lot of change happens in Ireland. And one of the things is that the emergence of the right of Catholics to vote and become MPs. So in a way, that opened up opportunities for him, and because he was educated, he was probably one of the first Catholics to emerge in that new middle class, upper class space for Catholics to move into. Up to then, they were excluded from it. So you talk about his youth. Born in Kerry, 1775 in Derryan, and the house there is a national treasure, and it's run by the government now, and people can go and visit it. And I know there's a lot of events happening over the coming weeks to commemorate 250 years of his anniversary. But it was he had two uncles, one that was in France, who was a count, and he was very, very influential on it, towards him. But then his other uncle, Morris, really took him and cared for him because he was a wealthy man and owned Derryan Abbey. So he took both Daniel and his younger brother, Morris, and seen to it that they were educated. They were sent initially to Cork about 1791, around that period. But then later he sent them to, and paid for them, they went via Liège and into Louvain, but they eventually found their way to the Jesuit college in Saint-Omer in France, just at the top of France beside Belgium. And he got educated there for some time, and they were so smart and well heeled in the sense of education that they decided to move them to a more reputable college, the Benedictine College in Douai. But the problem was the French Revolution was happening, and they feared for these young men's, Irish men's lives. They would have been seen as Catholic. French Revolution wasn't too open to the idea of Catholicism, and they felt maybe that these were young priests in the making. So their uncle, who had been there, was very, very worried for them. And so they were sent then to England, and it was there that Daniel finished off really his education and became a barrister.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the French Revolution disrupted his education and his location. Did it have any other sort of influence on him and what was to come?
Very profound influence on him. A very good question. The fact that he had seen so much bloodshed, and he didn't like the French form of revolution or political change. It was very violent, and people don't maybe realise the French Revolution was a very bloody thing. They estimate about 40,000 people heads were chopped off. I mean, that's a concept that's very bloody. And at the same time, about 400,000 to 500,000 people were jailed. Like, when you think of what was there before that, the old ancien regime, the old system under Louis, and the Bastille, the prison, things weren't worse before the revolution as they were after the revolution. It was a reign of terror. But look, and there was no give in that. They ended up even executing themselves. Anybody that they thought might be a monarchist, they executed. So he's seen all that, and I think the bloodshed really got him. And he says, no, this is never the way to go. There's
another way.
Peaceful protest, which would seep into the whole Irish parliamentary tradition versus the physical force tradition. And so Daniel O'Connell could be seen to be the man of parliamentary politics, which the nation didn't incidentally follow, because for me personally, and like for Patrick Pearse, the greatest Irish hero was Wolfe Tone, a Protestant, and Wolfe Tone led a physical force tradition when he failed in his political means, if that makes sense. And maybe history would vindicate Wolfe Tone more than Daniel O'Connell, but that's a matter of opinion. So we'll maybe talk a wee bit more about that. But Daniel himself became a barrister, came back to Ireland, was very, very successful, was a Catholic barrister, which very few Catholics had that position.
Between his departure for his education and his return in the 1790s, had there been any particular changes in Ireland, the attitude of the Irish under the rule that they were under?
Yeah, that fits a bit of the jigsaw very well there. Yes, the French Revolution had an impact on Ireland insofar as you had likes of Napper Tandy, Lord Fitzgerald, Henry Joy McCracken. The United Irishmen were formed, both Catholic and Protestant, coming together, liberty, equality, fraternity. It was before DEA as we have today, and where the Protestants in particular led this, and Presbyterians, that look, our Catholic brethren are on their knees and they should be equal to us. So that whole philosophy, that whole political ideology had seeped into Ireland, forming of the United Irishmen. And then the rebellion of 1798 took place, also a very bloody thing in many ways, and some terrible things done in the name of the United Irishmen rebellion on both sides. And Wolfe Tone had led that to some degree. In 1796, the Hoche and about 14,000 French soldiers had tried to arrive into Cork, but it was too stormy. They had to go back Christmas Day. So the English knew war was coming. And so in 1798, the revolution took place. It was a failed revolution. At this stage, Daniel O'Connell was in Dublin, was a practicing barrister, and later he would claim that he was supporting the cause of the revolution, but not the physical force tradition. He sat it out at home in Kerry, so to speak.
And that in and of itself, I mean, brave or foolhardy. I mean, when you've got your fellow man sort of so moved that they're prepared to put their lives on their line, and he's a barrister sitting in Dublin saying, you know, this is not the way. I'm not against what you're doing, but I'm not for it either. You know, in this day and age, that might be seen as a sort of a controversial stance. Was it controversial then?
Well, look, again, I don't want to go into the history of it and what happened, for example, in Northern Ireland. There's the physical force tradition, and now we're trying a peace process with no violence. Unfortunately, and I say this as a historian, England doesn't understand.
No, could a peace process actually ever be achieved without the violence?
Exactly.
That's not to justify anything. We can only look at history and sort of say, well, you know, it's. I'm just curious about him becoming an MP or entering politics, and maybe it's part of the same story. Of course, he is a Catholic. Catholics don't have a vote. I presume Catholics can become MPs, or can they not? So, what did he work on in that regard to allow a system whereby he could be elected as an MP?
Well, back to the beginning, we talked about the penal laws, and actually there's an interesting book written by Maureen Wall. She was from Glenswilly. She died in 1972. She's a fabulous book on the penal laws. So big praise for a Donegal woman. But the penal laws were in place, and they were very much anti-Catholic. He arrives as a barrister to Ireland at that time. He's seeing that there's a lot of discrimination, and he decides, look, this is something I have education. I'm articulate. He was a great motivator and campaigner. So he decides to move into that space and try to do something to get Catholic emancipation. So in the 1820s, he says, right, I'll move into this space. But his political astuteness is something that many, many other political organizations since have followed. His idea of getting people together. He had what they called the penny tax. Each Catholic family would pay a penny rent a month and contribute this into a central fund for Catholic emancipation. He organised meetings.
So just to explain what that phrase, Catholic emancipation, what does that mean?
Well, it's basically
Okay, the line's breaking down there. I'll tell you what, we'll come back with that after I take a very quick... Stay there, Joe. I'm going to take a very quick break, and I'll re-ask that question, and then we'll continue with the life and times of Daniel O'Connell. We'll be back in a moment.
Milford Tiles, Milford Retail Park. Tiles, bathware and wood flooring. The best quality and value in the Northwest. Fully stocked and ready to go. Fitters and delivery available. 10% off for Mica affected customers. Don't forget to ask about our 5-day bathroom fit out. Call Milford Tiles on 083 091 0707.
It's back. 3 Hail Marys on Grainon Letterkenny. Friday, September 5th and Saturday 6th. Unmissable. See ongrainon.com.
Get ready for big savings in the Hillary Summer Sale. Enjoy up to 50% off hundreds of made-to-measure blinds, curtains and shutters. Plus, there's €50 off your blind order when you choose electric, making controlling your blinds a breeze. And if you find the same product with the same service for less, we'll match the price. Book your free in-home appointment today at hillarys.ie. Don't settle for off the shelf. Let us take the stress away. It's what we've been doing for over 40 years. Hillary's Summer Sale. For the window wise. Conditions apply.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 32575.
With the inter-county season now done and dusted, the Donegal Senior Club Championship swings into action this weekend with 8 first-round ties. Join us on Sunday Sport for live coverage from 3 key fixtures. Our feature match from 4 p.m. sees the defending champions St Eunans go up against Kilcar, while we'll also have updates from the St Michael's McCools and Gweedore Glenfin games.
Coverage of the Donegal Senior Football Championship is with Highland Motors Letterkenny and Dacia's all-new Bigster SUV. Affordability redefined. Everything is big but the price, starting at $29,990.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Get back to school sorted with all the essentials from school jumpers to shoes. Visit our kidswear department in store or shop online at mcelhinneys.com today.
So, the weather forecast for today, a little cloudy this morning, though staying cloudy through the afternoon, but the patchy rain will clear later with perhaps a few sunny spells developing in temperatures of 15 to 18 degrees. We're talking history with Dr. Joe Kelly, and our focus is Daniel O'Connell, known as the Liberator or the King of Beggars. And I was just asking Joe before the break there, just to explain the phrase Catholic emancipation, because it is critical in our history, and we all would have known it during our years at school, but perhaps we've lost it over time. Because as I say, this is a big part of Mr. O'Connell's story. Joe.
So I was saying with Wolfe Tone and the Catholic Association back in the 1790s, they had gone to visit the King. Wolfe Tone was asked to go with them as a Protestant, addressed the King in England and told him, look, we want Catholic emancipation, we want Catholic rights, equality, that we're emancipated, that we're free, that we're equal. And the King was afraid because of what happened to the French Revolution. He didn't want to have 3 million Catholics at the time in Ireland rise up and lose his own head. So he says, I'll address Parliament and try to get you some rights that you'd be emancipated. But he didn't give us the rights, for example, to become an MP or to vote. And so we could never enter into the civil service. So we never got to the higher echelons of power. And this is what frustrated Wolfe Tone and led him into the revolution, because it didn't go far enough. They were given some freedoms like owning land and things like that, but not enough when it came to political equality. And so when Daniel O'Connell arrives, and you're talking 1823, he starts off the Catholic Association with the focus of opening up the political means as a route towards advancing the Catholics of Ireland. And so he creates an Irish organisation, a Catholic Association, which becomes massive, absolutely massive. The length and breadth of, like monster meetings, people came, they gave their penny a week. And the thing is, a penny a month. The thing is, at this stage, he was earning about 6,000 a year with his barrister, law practice and working in the courts and so forth. So once you become an MP, you lose your wage at that stage. There was no MP wage in England. It was usually landed.
So how did he keep bread on the table then? Did he dip into the penny tax?
So that was the penny tax, and that's why you call him the King of the Beggars. And he was looked down by the British here. You're surviving because of the beggars in Ireland giving you a penny a month to keep you going. And like for the next, I think 17, 18 years as an MP, when he was elected in Clare, in the by-election in Clare, which he won, he won that election quite well. There was about 900 votes to about 2,050 or something like that there. So he was elected in 1828. This now created a real problem for the English government and the monarchy.
But why did the English government cede that? They must have saw this coming. He had a cohort there ready to vote him in. Like, was there, the pen in one hand and the sword in the other? Why did, knowing what was to come, why would the British cede that control or that freedom to Catholics?
Because, again, the geopolitical system at the time, French Revolution had just happened. Things between France and England weren't great. If you have 3 million Irish Catholics going to rise up, the whole problem with that there, and they said, well, look, it's easier for us to concede this. And it's crazy to think that, that we were excluded at that point. And I think it's still in the law that, like, you can't become the king of England if you're a Catholic, or etc., etc. So there's that whole, but you can be any other religion but Catholic. That whole anti-Catholic sentiment was there. And please, this is not to be anti-Protestant or anti-Presbyterian. That's not. It's just the politics of the time. It's the history of the time. And what some of the greatest champions of Irish history were people of the Reformed tradition. So just to make that very, very clear. So he succeeded, and they had to change the law, and he's allowed to take up a seat in 1830 in Westminster. So it wasn't just that he became an MP. It meant then, for the first time ever, that Irish Catholics that were fairly well educated could enter into the British civil service. And if you think then what happens after that is a lot of Irish Catholics, particularly Irish people, enter the British civil service. If you think of that picture, Lord Kitchener, your country needs you, and he's pointing during World War I. He was a Kerry man, worked through the civil service. So lots and lots of Irish men, because of O'Connell's opening that door, entered into the whole British system of civil service and rose very, very high in that. So he succeeded in that, and the Catholics were happy. Now they had the right to vote. Now they could have MPs. Now they had a means to talk politically as opposed to violence.
Yeah. So how long was he an MP for? What were his primary issues? And Joe, I'm looking at the clock now, and we've got about 7 minutes, right? And I always feel we rush towards the end. So how would his role as an MP be assessed? What were some of his core issues, other than perhaps the obvious, or including the obvious?
Well, he went looking for home rule then after that there. The idea that we would have our own government. Because of 1798 and Wolfe Tone Rebellion, the British didn't trust us, took away our government, and they formed this thing called the Act of Union, which is still in this country because 6 of our counties are still part of that Act of Union. And he then started a campaign to have that repealed. So that was the first repeal, to repeal this union and to have our own government. And again, he had these monster meetings. There was one held in Tara. He had 1 million people attend that. Wow. And this really, really scared the English government. They said, like, this is getting out of hand here. So one of the meetings he had in Clontarf was really 1843. He dies in 1847. 1843, the British government said, no, we're not having this. They banned the meeting. They sent in two gunboats, and they say, look, open on the protesters as they saw them. Fire at them if you have to. And Daniel O'Connell, being the kind of man he was, said, look, no, I don't want people hurt or killed. This is going to lead to violence. So he cancelled the meeting. And really that was the beginning of his demise, because, again, he wasn't using physical force, but the British were well capable of using it to get their in. So he didn't succeed in the Home Rule, and it's one of the failures that he had, and it's still to be achieved. But he was very much to the fore when it came to slavery. He was totally anti-slavery. Frederick Engels, who came here to Ireland, who escaped, a coloured man, was a big friend of his, was really impressed with him. And when the ambassador to England from America, came to England, Daniel O'Connell refused to shake his hand, and he said to him very clearly, I will not shake your hand because you're a breeder of slaves. And
so and there's a couple of other questions I want to ask, but I want to make sure I get this one to you. What is his legacy then? Is it achieving Catholic emancipation? Is it starting, I suppose, as soon as you sort of can get into an organisation, and we know how powerful the civil service is, and people can rise up the ranks, that there might not be a change in the immediate, but change can happen from that. I mean, what is, it's perhaps a tough question to ask you, his legacy? Why is he so celebrated and well thought of then? What is it about his achievement?
Well, firstly, that at that stage when he was there, Catholic Ireland, heads were down. The nation's heads were down. We were bludgeoned to our knees, and if we tried to get off them, we were even bludgeoned even more. And he, in a way, he gave us hope. He gave us a means to get equality and dignity when it came to political means. So in that sense, he was very, very successful. And that political legacy has continued, and particularly the non-violent political legacy. My fear was, and my fear is with him, is like he was very much spoke highly of Queen Victoria. And
was he seen as what some might say at the moment now, a West Brit?
Yes.
And I don't wish to offend anyone with that phrase, but I'm just wondering, was he seen as a West Brit of the time?
Well, maybe not at the time he understood that, but that's the way I would see him, and maybe some other historians.
So what was his then view on something as you wouldn't be a fan?
No, I wouldn't be a fan. In the sense of, I think that the fact that he was in praise of Queen Victoria, what I would see as the famine queen, the fact that he
conceded more than he achieved. Is that your assessment?
I think he achieved a lot, but at some stage, and I agree with Thomas Maher, who was the man behind the tricolour. Unfortunately, the only way the English know is you can use a peaceful process, but there has to be that threat always that you will use physical force with the English, because it's the only language they understand.
And if that million-man meeting had gone ahead, who's to say how history might have unfolded?
And likewise, where was his silence and his lack of protest for the famine, for example? Maybe that would have been something that we could have avoided had we had our own government and had we been more vocal.
There's a steady downward trend in Irish language use since the famine for many reasons. He obviously was in a position of authority. Was he a big promoter of the Irish language?
Well, that's back to the West, Brett. He was happy to be part of the United Kingdom, a devolved government of some sort, that we would still be under the king and under the monarchy. With regards to the Irish language, he didn't care about its demise. In fact, he looked forward to seeing its demise because he'd seen it as maybe the language of poverty, and the English was more versatile in business and politics. And he was a native Irish speaker. His family was Irish, but he just looked down on the Irish language, didn't use it. And yeah, a lot of cultural nationalists would see him as being someone that had no respect for the Irish culture, language.
But he did see Ireland as a separate state, did he? Or did he see Irishness, Irish culture as part of a two-island solution?
I think he liked the whole aristocracy and the upper class, which he was used to, side of the English connection. That nationalist idea was to separate, that we were a separate country with our own culture, own language, which I would be of the 1890s, the Culture Revolution, the GAA, 1916, we're our own sovereign, independent people with our own language, our own music, our own dance. That would be the tradition that I would know, and that would be the tradition I think that most Irish people would have understood. But for Daniel O'Connell at his time, it was more, he was happy to be part of England and the English aristocratic system and means of government. And for me, fundamentally, as a Republican, and I don't mean this in violence, as a Republican, in essence, what that means is anybody, any man, woman or child can aspire to the highest office in the land, can go before people for election, can be president of the country. In the English system, it's monarchy. And for me, no, every human being in this country is equal. And for me, that would be the difficulty I would have with O'Connell, that he had some respect for the monarchy and the system of monarchy and governance. Having said that, he achieved a lot, and I don't want to be critical of him.
No, but I think those, in this day and age, you can pick out people that would be in political spheres that would be more aligned to his attitude and the attitude towards the British and our future and our language and what's taught in schools and what's not, and those that have different views. It's always fascinating, Joe, and we never have enough time, but I really appreciate your time today. Great to see you, by the way, in the flesh last Friday, and we'll chat again really soon. Mai hu, agus Majin Wai. Slán, bye-bye. Thank you very much. That is Dr. Joe Kelly.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
All right, it is 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update. Good morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Donegal is to receive an extra €1.6 million under the local improvement scheme, bringing the county's total this year to €2.39 million. The LIS is geared toward facilitating repairs on private roads in rural areas, which are used by local farmers and residents. Union Minister Charlie McConalogue says Donegal has again received the highest LIS allocation in the state, but acknowledges that more is needed. A Defective block homeowner who was one of the first to have the rebuilding of their home completed says he's being discriminated against because he completed the work in January of last year. Stephen O'Donnell exceeded the cap and was waiting on the 10% increase to be retrospectively applied. However, a cut-off date of March 2024 has now been applied to that retrospection, meaning he doesn't qualify. He believes he's one of 9 people in that position and is trying to contact the others ahead of a challenge to the Housing Minister. More details on that and the rest of today's news on our website, highlandvideo.com. A woman in her 70s has died in a house fire in County Tyrone. Emergency services were called to the Derry Cush Park area of Unclaimed last evening. The fire was extinguished. The woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Police aren't treating it as suspicious. Donald Trump's new tariffs for the European Union are now in effect. The higher 15% rate kicked in at 5 o'clock our time this morning. The Taoiseach says the arrangement provides a degree of uncertainty after months of uncertainty. However, he says there's a lot more work to be done, with still a lot of uncertainty around the pharma sector in particular. And police in County Derry are appealing for information and witnesses following a petrol bomb attack in Coleraine in the early hours of yesterday. A petrol bomb was thrown through the front window of a house in Maple Drive at around 1:30 in the morning. 3 people inside the property at the time managed to extinguish the blaze. There were no injuries. They're the headlines. Back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Donald, thanks very much. And we'll be back after the break.
Highland Bakery brings the magic to your morning tea break. Golden scones, still warm, soft in the middle and impossible to resist. Look for the packet with the rabbit on it. Fresh from the oven to your local shop. 25 years of Highland Bakery.
Ireland, this is your broadband wake-up call. Over 275,000 people are waking up to Vodafone Fibre broadband, now for just €25 a month. So stop snoozing on award-winning broadband. Switching is easy at Vodafone.ie.
Subject to eligibility, signing up to our €40 per month broadband package, €15 discount applied for first 6 months, an annual price increase of $3.50 each April. 24-month contract applies. For terms, see Vodafone.ie.
Injuries happen, illness strikes, but waiting in A&E doesn't have to be your only option. At Ophidia Letterkenny Minor Injuries and Illness Clinic, we treat everything from broken bones, cuts, burns, infections, rashes and more, with X-ray on site so you get answers fast. No appointments, no delays, just expert care right when you need it. Don't wait. Walk in today or visit ophidia.ie. Ophidia Letterkenny. Expert care without the wait.
Imagine if you could test drive everything in life. Marriage, new jobs, even your in-laws. Well, at least with your next car you can. At iMotors, we've been helping Donegal families for over 50 years find quality used cars they can trust. All 100% checked and come with a warranty. Take one for a spin today. Visit us in Letterkenny, Malin Village or at imotors.ie.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Tar the Chrevig Flachiol na Hayden La TG Cahed. Join us from Thursday to Sunday as we showcase the magic of the Fla live from 4 stages in the TG Cahed TV Village in Wexford. Fá bláise gon rágarne le plór na nálíntóirí as a tír seo agus thar sáile le chéile chun óráin ceol agus damsa na Hayden a cheilúrab. Watch Ireland's best music spectacle, including live competitions on TG Cahed and tgcahed.ie.
Welcome back. We're into the last hour of the show. Thanks for all your comments coming in. I will get to many of them in a moment. But I want to speak to David first because we're talking about Buncrana. Hi, David. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time today.
Hello. Hello.
It's Greg here, David. Can you hear me? Hello, David.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes. It's Greg here. You were going to talk about road safety in Buncrana.
Yeah. I have I'm sitting here in the car in Buncrana at the minute. There's a white van parked on the pedestrian crossing. You just parked there now. I was coming up Buncrana Street yesterday and there was a lorry parked on the pedestrian crossing and there was 3 children come out from the front of the lorry, never even looked where they were going. If I hadn't seen them coming down the pad, they'd have been in hospital.
Well, how does that work in terms of, say, for instance, people in a wheelchair or pushing a buggy using the drop curb?
Same thing. I've got on to 2 of our councillors to get these crossings marked the same as they done out the Cockhull Road, black and white, and no parking at any time road to cross them. But now this has gone back nearly a year ago. I got on the councillors. Both of them promised me to get something done. and nothing was done. I can name the councillors if you want to.
No, that's not necessary. Are these what you might describe, David, as courtesy crossings, where they're not black and white lines, they're just a different colour?
They're just tarred.
Yeah.
That's all they are, black tar. Black tar with humps on them. And the first time I went to them, they said they're not crossings, they're camel measures.
Right.
And I said, you know the tiles they put down, Craig, for the visually impaired and the blind, the bubble tiles, so let them know where the crossing is.
Yeah.
They're in both sides of them.
Right, that indicates they're crossings then.
That's it.
Well, especially if you're using a stick, though. I'm saying if you're using a stick, what have you, I presume that indicates somewhere where you can cross.
Exactly. That tells them that's a crossing.
All right.
Tells them that's a crossing. Now, if they come up and them bubble tiles is there and lorries parked on top of the crossing, what do? Somebody in a wheelchair comes across. What do?
Or if a kid runs out behind a lorry or a van thinking that...
Same happened yesterday. Was coming up the street yesterday, and I seen the kids coming down. They were on their phones, didn't lift their heads at all. They just walked straight out in front of the lorry.
All right. David, listen, we're going to get in contact with the powers that be to see what the story is. If you are in the Buncrana area or you often use that road and you want to back up David and what he's saying, please get in touch. 08660 25,000. A caller says, just picked up in what Mr. Kelly said about the famine. Let's not call it famine anymore. Let's call it the British genocide of the Irish instead. We know all that food and poultry leaving Ireland for England happened and let the Irish starve. Not denying there was a potato blight, but was it an opportunity for the British to do with the Irish people? Dr. Kelly, acutely aware of that. We've discussed it in the past, but just to timeline something, it's most commonly known as the famine. Unless I heard you guessed wrong, O'Connell was not supportive of the 1798 or 1803 rebellions. During the 1798 rebellion, he was a member of the Loyal Artillery Corps as British militia responsible for hunting down the United Irishmen. Several years later, he actually suggested that Robert Emmet should have been hanged. O'Connell was all about himself and the wealthy Catholic elite and should be remembered as such. He wanted us to become West Britons. At the time, Frederick Engels said this about O'Connell. O'Connell did not really mean to achieve repeal since he uses the impoverished, oppressed Irish people to embarrass the Tory ministers and to help his middle-class friends to get back into office. Well, listen, I mean, obviously we can't dig down into every moment in the history of O'Connell in that short period of time, but I would imagine reading your comments there that your views and Dr. Kelly's are more aligned than maybe you first thought when you text in. Really appreciate the text in. Love to have you engaged. Love to talk history, but especially when it sparks debate and conversation because it is our heritage. Greg, can you find out why the Income Tax Office in Letterkenny will not take calls, although their website says they are open? Is it a centralised number now, I wonder? Let me dig into that. Do you know if anyone in Donegal has a Padre Pio glove? Can you please text me details? Well, we have numbers if this person wants to call us. The shop, St. Paul's in Letterkenny, has it on certain days. So give us a call back. We have a list and it's easier for us to pass that info on to you that way. Car parks. It should be compulsory that all car parks should have a 45-degree angle parking instead of a straight one. This would save a lot of wasted fuel trying to line up by reversing into a straight angle. All right, that's interesting. When are the lights on the Castlefin Bridge going to be fixed? Another caller with the same question. We have a question into the council, so as soon as we know, you will know. I live in Ballybofane. We have a Tidy Towns adjudication coming up shortly. There is an event coming up in the town, but they have covered derelict buildings with posters. These posters will be an absolute eyesore. I'd appeal for these businesses. We love to see you in town, but please respect our town. A caller says people get very lazy. I'm on the road every day and I also see people pulling up in petrol stations alongside the pumps without getting in fuel just to get their bits and pieces. God forbid if they had to walk an extra 20 or 30 feet. I pull up beside the pumps and I don't pull away from the pumps until I've gone in and paid because it's almost as if the default is that you're a criminal and you're about to run off with their petrol or diesel because the signs are everywhere. CCTV and operational. I'm too scared to pull away. So maybe I'm the person sitting at the pumps whilst I'm in paying and getting a few bits and bobs. Conor Houston is Northern Ireland Director, Vulcan Consulting, founder and MD of Conor Houston Associates. He joins us on the show now. Hi, Conor.
Hi, Greg. How are you? Good morning.
I'm doing good. And the question is, what's it like to lose an election? And you can answer that. Before we get to that point, where do you have to be or what makes you want to seek public office? Is it something within yourself? You have a bit of it, and maybe there's a party approaches you and says, look, we can support you, we can tease it out with you. Like, talk to me about your journey into wanting to become an elected politician.
Sure. I think it's about trying to make a difference, make a contribution to society. So really come back to when I was probably a teenager, Greg, I had an interest in politics, in how you could make a difference within the community that you live in. I followed politics. I was involved in a lot of community groups, a lot of civic groups. And I suppose we're part of a generation that was really trying to realize the potential of the Good Friday Agreement. I've had a really amazing career. I've been very lucky. I've been a lawyer. I've been on a number of really incredible civic organizations, think tanks. And I suppose all of those experiences came together in sort of a desire to stand for public office. I wanted to bring my skills and insights and try and make a difference to the place that I'm proud to call home.
Did you feel that if elected into office, you could actually make a difference? Because, I mean, I presume part of the reason that drove you to politics was frustration at things never seeming to change or nothing ever happening. Did you believe that if elected, you actually could be that change? And do you still feel that way?
Well, I absolutely did. I wouldn't have put myself forward if I didn't believe I had a contribution to make, or I couldn't make a difference. And I suppose through my roles in business and civic society, I have been able to affect change. One of the positions I held, Greg, for example, I was chair of a special school in Belfast. I know in the 3 years that I was chair of that school, I got to see how I could make a real difference, nudge the dial and make an impact. And so I wanted to bring those insights, those skills, and that experience to public life. So people can get very frustrated by the politics and the political system, but I was very keen to see what I could do to make a difference.
And I suppose my question could have sounded loaded. Let's be realistic, though. For instance, we have a piece in Northern Ireland now, which we often take for granted, that would not have been achieved without politics, without politicians, without people getting around tables. So I presume that was part of your inspiration.
Of course. I was a teenager at the time of the Good Friday Agreement, and I remember vividly the sort of what I felt. I was only 14, 15, and I remember feeling that politics could be hopeful. The seemingly impossible could be done when people work together. I was inspired by, we were so fortunate, as you know, in this part of the world, we had the likes of John Hume, David Trimble, Monica McWilliams, so many others who made huge sacrifices in order to help bring about the peace that we now enjoy. And I felt a responsibility, even as a teenager, to try to find ways to ensure that peace lasted. We sort of take for granted that it has lasted, but that is because of a lot of hard work by both politicians, people in business society, civic society, in grassroots community groups, really day in, day out working the peace. And that's something that I'm very proud to have spent a lot of my adult life working on. I think the big lesson is doing the peace agreement is nearly the easy part. It's a changing hearts and minds is sort of a generational piece of work. And that's
it is. And that's why it's important there is never a political vacuum, because often if you see some of the flare-ups, I think anyway, and you can correct me if you believe different, over the last 10 or 15 years, it is often where there is a political vacuum or where there perhaps is not enough political leadership. Societal change does take generations, but very quickly I think you can see, tinder spots when there are those political vacuums, or it feels like there isn't political representation there.
Not to overly simplify it, but I think you could say in the last 28 years since the peace agreement, when people have worked together in a common good, we have made huge progress. When the British and Irish governments work together, when the political parties in Stormont have worked together, we have made leaps and bounds as a society. When those relationships are fractured, as happened during Brexit, unfortunately, then progress stalls. So the simple lesson is you've got to keep building those relationships. You've got to keep working those relationships and not taking them for granted. And that's where, in politics and in civic society, I've spent a lot of time trying to build those relationships, particularly across the political spectrum. My friends right across all the parties in Northern Ireland. I think that's hugely important to find ways to, as I always say, disagree well, because that's how you can ultimately build a more reconciled society, and a society where we value that diversity and difference, and where we can make progress.
Yeah, it's very important to speak to people, I think, to talk. And it amazes me, very intelligent people that I have a lot of respect for in the left of politics and the right of politics don't want to hear the other voice.
Yeah,
and they can say for whatever reason they want to do, but the truth is they simply don't want to hear the voice. And how in God's name can you get anywhere if you don't? And sometimes that's to platform it so to the point whereby it's completely unacceptable point of view. And I'm not saying anything that would actually genuinely, directly offend an individual or whatever, but there is no exclusivity on wanting your opposition to shut up in politics.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you, Greg. And it's one of the things I've noticed, I think, particularly in the last 5 years, maybe post-COVID, that sort of much more divided sense. I mean, you see that with sort of the Trump America at the minute. Politics is very divisive, very toxic.
But it's a horseshoe. It's a horseshoe. The left and the right meet in the middle. And if either side of that don't see that, well, they're pretty naive, as intelligent as they might think they are.
Unfortunately, the culture, and I suppose of what might be called the Good Friday Agreement generation, the lesson of the Northern Ireland Irish peace process, was people being able, from very different backgrounds, working together in a common good. We need more of that. We need to bring that ethos back to politics. This sort of cancel culture that if you don't completely agree with an ideological point of view, you're wrong, you're discredited is not healthy. It's actually really good in a democracy to have people that you disagree with.
But I think people that know better, people that should know better, who could be the leaders or the brokers, have succumbed to exactly what you just talk of. You're very active in your community. Sorry, what you're from Belfast, are you?
I'm from a little town just outside Belfast called Hollywood.
Okay, so
down,
you're doing great work in there. You're involved in local schools. You're involved in community. I mean, you are making a difference on the ground. But if you step into politics as you chose to do, firstly, you're going to have to forego some of that work. Secondly, dependent on who you stand for, maybe you might not be welcome in certain places. So in a way, it was a big shout for you to say, right, firstly, I'm going to dedicate my life to trying to achieve this. But also you had to say, right, I'm going to have to at least park the work, if not remove it altogether, and see if I can achieve more in a different space. That's a time cost, is it?
Yeah, well, I think for me, as with everything I've done in my career, I believe you have to go all in. You've got to make those sacrifices. You've got to focus to achieve your goals. So I gave up really a year of my life to campaign, build my and run for election and run the campaign.
For the SDLP in the end.
For the SDLP.
You found they most aligned to your way of...
Yeah, I think, well, I was very fortunate. My dad's a dairyman. My grandfather had a shoe shop in Derry, Bernard Houston, and he was great friends with John Hughes. So I kind of grew up steeped in that SDLP sort of ethos. I had a lot of friends, Colin Eastwood and Claire Hanna, were people I greatly admired. So I felt it was the best political home for me, and the values of the SDLP sort of chime with myself. And that's something that I was very proud to stand with the SDLP.
And in terms of once you've made that decision and your family have to come with you and all of that kind of stuff, what was one of the biggest eye-openers? I mean, because you're stepping from... not obscurity, obviously, because you're very well known into your in your own community, but you're stepping into a realm where all bets are off. Anyone can say anything about you. Your opponents, if they feel threatened by you, can say absolutely anything they like. You'll not always get your right to reply. You are now just in the game. What was that like?
I think the hardest thing was what I would call the sort of the box culture, and it was because I was in the SDLP, therefore Nationalist Party, you would very quickly get put in a box. And I think the shock for me was twofold. One was the level of sectarianism, unfortunately, that still exists within society, and people would kind of just discredit anything I had to say on the basis that they could put this nationalist label on me. That was difficult because I've spent my whole life trying to promote a shared, reconciled society. The second then, of course, is, and I think anybody who stood for office, anybody that's in politics will tell you, social media. It's a very, on one hand, it's brilliant because you get to communicate directly with the voter in a very personal way. You can be in their homes, sharing your videos, sharing your messages. And people were great at interacting. And 90% of my social media was very positive, very engaging. People got behind the campaign. Unfortunately, then you have the anonymous on social media who use it for nefarious, to spread hate and to be hateful. And unfortunately, like many people in public life, I suffered from abuse online and unfortunately at times threats online, which had to be reported to police. So that was the difficult thing, because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is step up and serve your community, make a contribution, make a difference. And so that sort of very small, just to stress, very, very small element.
But it's impossible to ignore, and it only takes one person, obviously, to do something that could be quite drastic. Curious, did you knock on every door, or just every door that would be favourable to you or an SDLP candidate?
Well, I knocked on every door, and I was from the outset, when I was designing the campaign, I made very clear, look, of course, there are areas where we knew we had a strong vote. Did I focus on those areas? Of course I did. But I was very clear to my team that I want to represent everybody in this constituency. I want to knock in communities where we don't necessarily get a vote, because I think it's very important to listen to people. Why aren't they voting for you? And I was very proud when I looked at the results and I looked at the different boxes. I got votes right across the constituency. I got a phenomenal rate of transfers from people from the unionist tradition. In fact, a lot of people who backed my campaign publicly would be considered unionists. So that was very, very important to me, to genuinely stand and represent and ask for the vote of everybody in the constituency, because I would have wanted to represent everybody in the Strangford constituency.
Obviously, we're having to fast forward to some extent, but I mean, you put in a long campaign and you enjoyed a lot of backing. So we'll fast forward to polls day, but I just want to get an insight into how personal the journey feels, or how responsible you feel for your team. Because, obviously a party will get behind you, but a party is a party, but it takes individuals, people that say, right, I'm backing you here. I believe you can make that difference. And you had those in great numbers. How much pressure was there on you to deliver for yourself? Obviously, your constituents, that's the aim of the game, but also those that sort of backed you, because it's a very personal endorsement.
It is, yeah. I mean, I always tell the story. One of the doors I knocked, there was a young mother with 2 children came to the door. It was a January evening, and the cold came out of the house. There was no lights on. And, the kids were sitting with their coats on the sofa. And I realized this is why I'm running. This is why we need to step up. But yes, you do. You feel a huge responsibility for your team, for the people who back you. One of the extraordinary things that happens when you put yourself up for election is that all these people sort of emerge seemingly from nowhere who get behind your campaign. There was one young guy called Will, and I don't think I went out on a canvas where he didn't come out with me. I mean, I'd never met the guy before I went into politics, and he basically dedicated 9 months of his life to getting behind me. But then so many people put up my posters, people fundraise for me, people come out and leaflet with me. So you do feel a responsibility. The media then were getting behind my campaign. There was kind of this sense of history making, and so it was, and I got some celebrity endorsements from actors like the actor Jimmy Nesbitt and rugby player Andrew Trimble. So there was a kind of a momentum, and you feel then a pressure and responsibility, and you look, being honest, you buy into it, of course, because you feel this surge.
But you've done everything you possibly can, and I think it's like playing a game of football or any sport or whatever it is. You don't want to leave anything on the pitch, so to speak. And I think your campaign, you could assess it and you say, no, I did not. Unfortunately, when you're in a count centre, and I've been in many, thankfully not standing for election, it's a room full of people that will be successful or unsuccessful. And success also is measured in different ways. For some, success is not necessarily even getting elected. It might be to increase their votes or to have their... but you did run for election with a view to getting elected. So when it began to emerge, you were in the race, out the race, in the race, out the race, and eventually you fell short by 40 votes. Is that worse than losing by 3,000 votes?
I'm not sure because I haven't experienced, thankfully, that loss. But it was a long count. In my count, actually, I think might have been one of the longest in that assembly election. It went over 2 days, and we were ahead for 7 counts. So it was pretty brutal in that regard. And it's hard because 40 votes feels like, if I just done one more night, if I just done one more village again, could I have tipped that the other way? But that's the way it works. And the count centre is a very surreal place. It's a goldfish bowl, and it's like applying for a job in the full glare of the media, and people are watching in real time your success or your failure in terms of getting elected. So that pressure was huge. I was very lucky. I had an amazing campaign manager, one of my best friends, Gareth, and my dad was there, and obviously all my team. So, and the party were brilliant. So I felt very supported, but it was still like there's no way of how you don't do all that. You don't give up a year if you don't move house. You don't do all these things to not win. So that was very hard.
How long did it take after defeat, as you framed it yourself? How long did it take to come around?
Well,
people will say you gave it a good run. People will say you should be proud of yourself. People will say this, that, and none. We're proud of you, blah. But at the end of the day, you sacrificed a great deal with a view to getting elected into politics, which you weren't successful in. So how, not even what you were saying to other people, how long did it take you to come to terms with that?
Honestly, it's always something you never really get over, these things in life, in the sense that, it was a life-defining moment. I suppose what I did that summer, that was in May, and really over the course of that summer, I probably licked the wounds and I felt a bit sorry for myself. But I dug deep, and I had a lot of support still around me, a lot of great friends and family. And what really emerged to me, the big lesson was, well, actually, I stood for what I believe, and I stood for my values. I acted with integrity.
Well, on that point, if you were able to forego a little bit of integrity, if you were able to perhaps not be as honest as you chose to be, or perhaps maybe not being as polite to your opposition as maybe you were, do you believe that you could have got elected if you had have been less authentic and had less morals?
Who knows? I mean, who knows?
That's why I'm asking.
That was just never on the cards. Look, throughout my career.
But I'm trying to get an insight into it.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get an insight into is does there come a point where a candidate might have to sacrifice what's important to them to succeed in politics? That greasy pole, you will eventually do whatever it takes to get on it.
There are tactics in elections and in political processes where you can demonize, for example, your opposition, and I just refuse to go down that route. Now, it's a what if I had, would it maybe have got me those 40 votes to keep me in the race and maybe get the seat? I don't know, but I just think that, it's such a personal test of your values, of your credibility, of your integrity. And the one thing that even today I am so proud of is I didn't compromise those. And I think in life, that's what it's about, because you never compromise your values or integrity.
It's a two-part question. My final question for you, I suppose, what did you learn about politics and what did you learn about yourself in the process?
Well, I think the politics one was the number of just amazing people that enter the public arena. This across the political spectrum. There's people who, like me, have made the sacrifices, who want to make a difference. Also, the amazing people I met. When you knock thousands of doors, you get a real sense of your community and society. And as I said, most people are just decent and want to live a good life and have a better life for their kids. It's fairly simple at the end of the day. So I had a huge respect for politics and for the community I live in. For myself, I think it goes back to what I was just talking about. It really crystallizes who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, your integrity. And that's something I'm so grateful for, because that stood me. I went on to become chief executive of the SDLP and did that for 2 years. And now I'm back in the business world working in consulting. And, those values, that are what makes me continue to want to make a difference, and I hope to be successful.
If you really, really, really cared about someone in your life and they said to you, I'm thinking of running for the SDLP in the next election, would you say, yes, do it, I'll back you 100%? Or, you know what, maybe stick to community work?
I would never discourage anybody from running for public office.
Would you
but
encourage
I think it's always very personal as a politician's answer.
I know, you haven't struck that yet.
I would never discourage anyone from running for public office. It's an extraordinary, but as I'm outlining, and I think that's why I was quite surprised by the reaction. I wrote this blog just to kind of share some thoughts on my LinkedIn, and it kind of has attracted a lot of attention, and I think it's like anything you commit to in life. If you're going to make any big leap, there's going to be sacrifices, there's going to be risks, and I think just so long as people are aware of those, I would say go for it. And I have no regret. I wish I'd won, but I have absolutely no regret in doing it.
Lovely stuff. Thanks so much for your time, Conor. Best of luck in the business world. Would you ever consider running again?
I definitely will give a politician's answer now, Greg. For now, I'm very happy where I am. I'm enjoying being back sort of in business civic life. I know I can make a real difference here, but I would never rule it out.
Okay,
thanks. Public service is the highest calling, so I'd never rule it out.
Thank you so much for your time. That's Conor Houston there. And he wrote a blog on LinkedIn called What's It Like to Lose an Election? And thought it interesting to have a quick chat with him to just get that insight. Right, back with more.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with their bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725822 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
TFI Local Link operates evening and weekend services throughout rural Ireland to help you stay connected 7 days a week. We know life doesn't just happen 9 to 5, so if you're commuting, shopping, visiting family, or going out in the evenings or on the weekends, let TFI Local Link take you there. Visit transportforireland.ie.
Get the job done with the right equipment delivered direct from Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Free delivery on all equipment has been extended to the Finn Valley area, including Ballybuffet, Stranorlar, Castlefin and Killygordon. With great daily and weekend deals available, call Watson Hire, Lisnen and Letterkenny on 9167777. See Facebook or visit watsonhire.ie.
Make a splash with Aura Leisure Swim Academy. Our fun, friendly children's swim lessons teach a lifelong skill in a safe and supportive environment. Give your child confidence in the water and in life. Find us at 10 convenient locations across Ireland, including Aura Letterkenny. Visit auraleisure.ie/swim to dive in today.
At Restex Beds, we are celebrating 50 incredible years in business. And we are introducing our brand new Glenveigh mattress, comfort that's as legendary as our half-century legacy. Experience 50 years of bedding excellence at Restex Beds, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Restex Beds, leave the rest to us.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
The time now, 11:33. A caller says the parking spaces at Dunstores are far too narrow. If anyone has an ailment or needs an aid, I don't know how they can get out of their car. The parking spaces, they reiterate, are too narrow. Yeah, it seems to be a thing. I think everyone's now driving bigger cars, or it seems like everyone's driving bigger cars, SUVs, even SUVs, you know, with 1 litre or 1.3 litre engines, which normally would have went into a smaller car. And I just think these lines were painted when the majority of people weren't driving those type of cars, and I think it comes down to that. Another caller says the reason that people get away with parking in the disabled bay in Letterkenny's main street is because there is no Garda presence on the main street. If the Gardaí were there to police it, there would be no issue. But you've got traffic wardens; that's part of their job as well, And there are numbers, I believe, that you can call and. Can you take pictures? I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that. But anyway, you can do your bit as well. Now, Myra Niwarahu is CEO of Irish Self-Catering Federation and is with me on the programme now. Good morning, Myra.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. It's great to have you on. Right, you're part of a group representing self-catering rental homes. And you're unhappy with what's been described as scapegoating for the housing crisis. So when we talk about self-catering catering rental homes. Is this Airbnbs in layman's terms?
You could call it Airbnb, but
Not
we were here a
exclusively.
long time before Airbnb.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So Airbnb is only in the market for just over 10 years in Ireland. And the term has been used, but self-catering has been there since about the 1950s or 60s.
So you've got a person's lucky enough to have a second house or a part of their house, and they want to make an income from it. Previously, they might have stuck a poster up in the supermarket, but now they can use platforms like Airbnb. These are the people that we're talking about. And now we are having planning regulations, really, that's encroaching on your right to do with your property what you wish.
That's true, Greg. So there are two things coming down the tracks for us. The first thing is that we have a register for short-term rental. That's been brought in by the EU. Because we don't have a register at the moment. The government has no idea how many self-catering properties there are. But the register is very much to be welcomed because it'll give clear data on how many properties there are. However, they're also bringing in planning requirement for all of us in the industry. And many of us run small mom and pop businesses all over rural Ireland, all over Donegal. We may have converted an outhouse, a shed, part of the house, and they're now expecting that all of us will get planning.
But the truth is it's not so you get planning. It's so that what you're doing can be not criminalised, but it can be made illegal. Listen, let's call it as it is in certain areas, and it's areas with a population of over 10,000. This is about stamping out short-term lets. It's not about making life difficult for you to apply. It's a mechanism for the state to control these properties.
Completely. You've got it in one, Greg. So in Donegal, Letterkenny would be the only place that would be affected. And we're saying they are using like a sledgehammer to crack a nut. They're using regulations which have been brought in places like Barcelona, which is 1.6 million, to deal with Letterkenny. And that's not fair because there is no comparison between Letterkenny and the tourism population of Barcelona.
What kind of an impact is it felt this might have on, I suppose, let me focus on rural Ireland. As you mentioned, Letterkenny is the town affected in this part of the world, but right down the west coast, the Midlands and the east coast as well, there are thousands upon thousands of these types of properties. What do you believe the impact might be? And I just want to put it into context too. We're also discussing at the same time hotels gouging people and discouraging tourists into this country, because I think that feeds into this story to some extent as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's worth about $250 million per annum in rural Ireland directly for the rentals. And separate to that, for every €25 that's been spent on a rental, €75 is spent in the local community on self-catering in the restaurants, the cafes, the shops, the activity providers, the visitor attractions. People will spend a lot more money when they're staying in self-catering than they do in hotels. It's cheaper, it's family-centred, it's family-focused, and therefore it brings a huge amount of income to rural Ireland. And we depend on that income. And the government basically is trying to close down rural Ireland by bringing in this very retrograde legislation.
If we had a surplus of social housing and public built housing, I presume you're of the feeling that this would not happen, that this your sector is being seen as a solution to the housing crisis, which some would say has been caused by a failure of government. So the government, who perhaps aren't meeting the targets, are saying, right, instead of us meeting those targets, we're going to develop more rental property from your sector.
Exactly. So they expect that we're going to turn around and say, okay, you can take our properties, no problem. However, they need most of the accommodation in high density urban areas, not in rural areas of Donegal. And so what we're saying is hands off our properties. We're very happy with the register. We want a register in place, but we cannot be expected to get, apply for planning again and get it in before May of next year. It's physically impossible. You know what the planning system is like. It can take years to get planning. We all already have these buildings in place. We are running our businesses, and government has a lot of properties. It's got over 3,000 social housing properties that are empty at the moment. The OPW has over 700 properties which are empty, and the HSE has large buildings such as hospitals, all sitting empty, over 230 of those. So what we're saying is government needs to focus on what they have not try and go for the quickest, easiest solution and try and take our properties.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, obviously even those not affected by this, and this might sound like I'm anti it, and I'm not saying that because it's not for me to say, but, at this point, what we're saying is let's introduce policies that determine what a private person can do with their private property. So maybe you were lucky enough to inherit it, or maybe you ended up with it and you're an accidental landlord, or maybe it's your pension pot, maybe it's your investment, maybe it's your security. What we're saying is that you can't use it for the function that you wish to use it, even though there's a tax dividend and what have you for the state. We're actually going to position it to a point whereby we're going to choose what you use this property for. So you either sell it to someone who will comply with what we want, or you actually change the use of this property in and of itself. I think when a state sort of reaches that far into people's personal ownership, I think we need to all sort of say, is this what we want? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think because it could be this next. Next, in 20 years, it could be two people living in a 5-bedroomed house. That the state thinks, well, why can we not move a family in there? And you could be discouraged from having 3 spare rooms in your own house. We're on the same potential pathway, and that's why I think, whether people agree or disagree, have a think about what we're talking about, because I think it's slightly greater, with all due respect to the safe catering sector, it's slightly greater than that potentially.
It is. It has a serious effect. And I mean, the basic problem is the government is not building social housing. They haven't built it for many years. They're taking an idea from a policy that is developed in Spain, where they were restricting the short-term rent, the Airbnbs particularly, not all short-term rental, but Airbnb. And they were turning around to bring that policy into Ireland. The only thing they're not doing is they're not building any houses themselves. So the government needs to understand that if they bring in a policy, they've actually got to carry it through and build the social housing and provide.
Well, I mean, they are going to deliver. They are going to deliver 36,000 houses, but listen, that's far short of where we need to be. Okay, yeah. It's an interesting one. I think the problem is that I have heard politicians, individuals, or collective groups of politicians, i.e., parties, in opposition in favour of this, wanting Airbnbs taxed out of it effectively. So it's going to be interesting to see where your support might fall, because it's not by default coming from the opposition this time. But anyway, it's been interesting hearing your views, Myra. I do appreciate your time. As I say, this doesn't affect me directly. I don't have a second house. But anyway, I do appreciate your time. Myra Ní Warahu, what do you think? 086 60 25,000. As I say, we need more houses. I know there are people in this county living in freezing cold, substandard houses. They've nowhere to go. There's no rent. They can't afford the rent because they can't compete with schemes that are out there for the Ukrainian people, for an example, no begrudging of them. We have a massive housing crisis. There are thousands upon thousands of these houses all around the country. Maybe it is time to bring them back into full-time use. As I say, I don't know the answer to that, but also one has to consider, whilst it might not affect you now, what happens down the line in 20 years' time if you and your partner are living in a 4 or 5 bedroomed house and you are deciding what to do with it, but you're told that, well, that house is too big for you. That house you could house a family of 8 there. There's a little apartment, move into that. Maybe it won't be your choice. Maybe you'll be taxed out of that too. I don't know. But I just think it's very important that we talk about it. I'm not scaremongering. I'm not taking a side. I just think we need to have that broader conversation. Let me know what you think. 086 60 25,000. The phone lines have been incredibly busy. We have another set of figures out. They seem to come thick and fast. They're embargoed until 12 o'clock, so we can't really speak about them, but I'll not be back on air for another 12 hours. And my understanding is and what I expect us to be doing really, really well again with our listeners, not only on this show, but right across the station, 7 days a week. And it is fantastic. It's a great testament to our listeners, if I'm correct, but also to our fantastic advertisers who we support, and they support us, and they keep the lights on and all that kind of stuff. So as I say, not preempting it because it's embargoed to 12, but hopefully there's good news later on, and we'll be able to talk about it in a little bit more detail tomorrow. Though by the time tomorrow's come, I'll be over it and probably forget to even mention it. Oh, we're coming from Rafo tomorrow, by the way. Is it in a public building, Caroline? Are we in a public building? So if you're in and around Refo, call over and say hello. We've had some great turnouts recently in the likes of Dunlow, Carndonna. Refo people, don't leave us hanging. We'd love to say hello. Maybe you want to bring the kids along and let them see how a radio show actually goes on. We're more than happy to see you. I'll give you some more details about what we're doing tomorrow after we take a break.
If you're aged 59 to 70, we will invite you for a free HSE bowel screening home test. Screening can help find signs of bowel cancer early, before any symptoms show, making it easier to treat.
How we use electricity can be smarter, cleaner, and greener. At Electric Ireland, we can help guide you there. Our Net Zero Hub has all you need to know about smart meter plans, home EV chargers, solar panels, heat pumps, and much more. Making your usage clearer, your trips greener, your home cozier, and your world brighter. Find our Net Zero Hub at electricireland.ie.
Sometimes life can be a lot. Leave the world behind at Aquasana Forest Spa. Heal in the glow of volcanic mists. Reinvigorate your body in the ice cave. Feel boosted by hot spring bubbles. Feel yourself. Feel revitalized in the forest. Aquasana Forest Spa, just 90 minutes from Dublin. Book exclusively at aquasana.ie.
If you're looking to refresh your home, visit Foy's Fabric Department in Letterkenny. We've got ready-made curtains, made-to-measure options, window blinds of every kind and so much more. From cushions and throws to upholstery fabrics, you can choose from top designer brands and get advice from our experienced interior design team. Style it your way with the Fabric Department at Foy's in Letterkenny.
Tonight at the 56th Clonmoney Festival, there's Paddy Tracy at 7 and Derek Ryan on stage at 9. Tomorrow Friday, Ryan Turner, Claudia Buckley and Jimmy Buckley. See more at clonmoneyfestival.com.
Win 2 tickets to see Oasis in Croke Park this summer thanks to Heron Auto, Donegal Town. To be in with a chance of winning, simply test drive any new Kia or used car at Heron Auto between now and August 14th. Full range of new Kia cars in stock and over 70 used cars. Visit Heron Auto today.
Don't delay when you get your bowel screening invitation. Call us today on 1-800 45 45 55 or visit bowelscreen.ie. From the HSE.
I'm James Elder with UNICEF and I've been to Gaza. I've met the terrified mothers who know that their love isn't enough to feed their children. I've met the starving children in hospital too weak to cry. They need food, they need it now. UNICEF is delivering life-saving therapeutic food, but we urgently need your support. I've seen donations from Ireland bring hope where there was none. Please visit unicef.ie and help save a child's life today. Thank you.
Is your couch older than your Spotify playlist? Is your dining table wobblier than your uncle at a wedding? If so, it's time for an upgrade at Grove Furnishings, Kiltoy Road, Letterkenny, the largest furniture store in the Northwest. From stylish sofas to elegant beds, from floor covering to occasional pieces, we've got you covered. And we offer free delivery within 80 kilometres. Grove Furnishings. Seriously good furniture.
We're serving up summer at Dunnes Stores and it's barbecue season. Mix and match 3 for €10 across a fantastic range of meat and fish. Try something vibrant like succulent king prawns. Or enjoy Board Bia quality assured meats like piri piri chicken wings or new hot honey pork belly slices and many more. Any 3 for just €10. Plus, save at the till with a 10 off 50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more.
It's here, it's now, it's Belfast. Come and celebrate creativity at Ireland's biggest community arts festival, Fela and Fubble. For country fans, Nathan Carter, the Whistling Donkeys, Lisa McHugh and more will be playing your favourite tunes at Country Fest on Saturday 2nd of August. Dance music more your thing? On Friday 8th of August, the legendary Fela Dance Night takes over Falls Park with acts including Dara and trance legend Paul van Dyk. Uncover it all at visitbelfast.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhinney's. Get back to school sorted with all the essentials from school jumpers to shoes. Visit our kidswear department in store or shop online at mcelhinney's.com today.
So staying cloudy through the afternoon, but patchy rain will clear later with perhaps a few sunny spells developing. Temperatures 15 to 18 degrees. Delighted to welcome onto the programme now Seamus Boland, who's CEO of Irish Rural Link. Good morning, Seamus.
Good morning. Nice to be there.
Yeah, now, we've had a number of texts, as I imagine many people have, from people concerned because they've received letters from Revenue, their pensioners, and it's in relation to incorrect tax payments. Some, the majority being told that they've underpaid, some being told they overpaid. So what has led to this? Is this people with a public and private pension that primarily are receiving this contact?
Yeah, primarily it's people basically who have occupational pensions. That's pensions linked to their jobs, linked to their employment, whether it's private or public. So they may be in a situation where, for various reasons, that occupational pension doesn't seem to have been declared, and as a result, if you earn more than 18,000, any citizen, then you're due for tax. So older people are no exception, and I think that's the reason why people are now getting these letters and indeed are concerned.
Am I correct in saying the state pension isn't taxed, and that maybe has led to some confusion?
Yeah, first of all, if you're just receiving a state pension, it's the most it can be is €15,000, and since the taxation limit for tax purposes is 18, you're way below that. So anybody on a state pension, you won't have got letters, and you've nothing to worry about.
People may have presumed that, if there was no contact from Revenue, that everything was all right. Surely they know if I'm in receipt of a contributory pension and a state pension. And, do you think, that ignorance isn't a defence, right? But do you think maybe people are justified in presuming the state knew everything that was going on?
Yeah, now we're coming to the crux of the matter. I remember in 2012, the Revenue wrote to 115,000 pensioners, and it caused enormous confusion because they didn't know whether they were paying tax on the state pension. They didn't know what was going on. And indeed, there was apology made by the Revenue at that time at the confusion and anxiety created. And I suppose what we all thought was that at that time, Revenue and various other aspects of government had resolved this issue because everybody has a PRSI number, so therefore it should be relatively easy to devise a system whereby the income, especially from pensions, whether it be occupational or not, can be seen, and therefore the necessary deduction of tax happens. But clearly that has not happened, and I think that's what I would really ask questions about. And you're right, a lot of people are concerned at these letters because they quite frankly don't know what to do. And this is the second time this has happened. And I think once is kind of understandable, but twice is just going out of hand.
And even those, we've been contacted by some that have underpaid and might feel they're owed money by Revenue. There's confusion there too as to how you might go about securing that money. A lot of people are hard-pressed, Seamus. So it's about the handling of this going forward, is it? What's your advice to people? Is it to engage with Revenue? Because that's really what Revenue is seeking at this point.
Yeah, I think you need to engage in Revenue. Now, again, those who are, and not everyone is, and that's another criticism we have, digitally knowledgeable and educated.
Well, I don't like myself going into Ross or one of those websites. You constantly have to keep signing back in. There's texts to your phone. Yes. I understand how they have to be secure, but it is a nightmare. And if you take any time to think at all, you're signed out and you have to begin the whole process all over again. There's no end of years you can click, then forms you can click. I would see myself as competent. That whole system I see as a nightmare.
It's an absolute nightmare, and it's a very much a nightmare for people who are not used to the system. You're working at a computer probably every day, and the phone, and probably I am as well. But not everybody is, and especially people retired are simply not, and technology has even moved on since they were last at work. So they are nervous, and this is not. What we would like to have seen happen is this letter, first of all, it's written apparently as part of a batch of 200,000 letters to a whole load of tax people who may or may not be compliant. I would argue it should have been separated. I would argue the letter, while it isn't the worst letter, it certainly isn't as bad as the one in 12, but it still lacks the assurance of what to do apart from ring revenue or go online. As you said, not everybody wants to go online. I would have said you should have equipped the Citizens Online Centres to handle all these queries, or at least give pensioners who have got this letter some way of contacting people who can actually physically and on the phone help them.
It's a confusion grenade. They've just chucked a confusion grenade into 200,000 people. And it shouldn't be like this. Okay, and as you say, lessons should have been learned from 2012. Seamus, it's lovely to speak to you again. Thank you. Seamus Boland, CEO of Irish Rural Link. Now, this is relating to if you received a letter from Revenue. So if you are a pensioner and you hadn't, I presume this doesn't apply to you. Maybe you want to log on or inquire to see what the situation is. But people received a letter triggering this conversation. Some have overpaid tax. Many have underpaid tax. And it causes anxiety because you're thinking, right, well, I'm here. Yeah, I do have a contributory pension as well, but I'm just keeping my head above water. How much am I going to be on the hook for to Revenue? So those are the kinds of problems that people are going to encounter, the fears people may well have. Right, tomorrow's show, we're out of the studio, but you know yourself the way we do it now. You wouldn't really know unless we told you. You can still listen to the show on air, of course, and watch the show online. We're coming live from the Vault Centre. It's operated by Refoe Community in Action, and it's involved into a vibrant community resource centre with space for classes, events and gatherings. So you'll be very familiar with it if you go in there. But this is an opportunity, perhaps, if you're in the Refoe area, to come in and have a look at what it's all about and to listen to what it's all about, because lots goes on there. There's activities like yoga, Pilates, tin whistle lessons, senior clubs, youth drama, and groups like the Vault House Ladies and Diamond Writers. So we're going to have the Friday panel to kick things off. We're going to have live music, and we're going to chat to local communities and find out the work that they do. And we're also going to be launching our new cash draw, which is all very exciting. Is Sean coming out to Refoe? He is coming out. Oh my word, the CEO. It's the red carpet in the back of the car. It is. Okay, great stuff. Yeah, so come along. It's going to be a lovely day. And as I say, an opportunity for you to see perhaps the work that goes on at the Vault. Even if you're in the area, sometimes you might not think, well, is that for me? Well, let's find out. We'll all find out together tomorrow. And as I say, if you want to come along and see how a show is put together and meet the crew, we'd be more than happy to see you too.